Okay, it is Tuesday, October 22nd, 2019. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Follow me into order. Minutes and reports received and filed.
None.
None. Commissioner Committee Liaison Reports, upcoming meetings and events.
We got Christmas committee meeting tomorrow. The Special Olympics Missouri Denim and Diamonds fundraiser Thursday night at St. Martin's. I think there's some kind of a pink fundraiser tomorrow or Thursday night as well. I don't have that on my calendar. The Over the Edge at the Jefferson State Office Building Saturday for the CDFY fundraiser.
Didn't I pay your entrance fee?
It's $1,000. I have to raise $1,000. So if you have that balance, just
Everybody here might kick in just to see you go over the edge.
I'm not looking forward to it. That's higher than a tree stand, so that's way more than I need. And then Monday, the FEMA meeting for the county tornado reimbursement, and I don't know if we don't necessarily need to be at that, right, David? That's more for you. Okay. That's about all I've got.
So we're having a Heartland Port meeting tomorrow morning, closed session at Soybean Association, and then the MMRPC annual meeting is tomorrow night at 5:30 at Claysville Store. Pal Spaghetti Dinner at the Knights of Columbus on Thursday night, 4 to 7, I think. And then we're having a pre-trial meeting with Sarah Walsh, Representative Walsh, here on Thursday at 1. I think that's probably about it.
I meet today with Lieutenant Governor Keough, Chief of Staff Adam Gresham at 3. Tomorrow, Attorney General Eric Schmidt's having a press conference at Heisinger I'm going to go to. Thursday, we've got a bicentennial meeting between the counties at 11:45. It's also Zombie Fest for the Thursday Night Live. Friday, I got a chamber. Saturday is downtown trick or treat from 11 to 2. If you want to put a costume on. The FEMA Monday, but I won't make it because I get to judge a high school art contest instead at the same time. So that is all I have. Presentation from staff consultants, invited guest. Our invited guest today is past presiding commissioner Mark Ellinger.
Morning.
Morning, Mark.
Good morning. Grand appearance, huh? Good to be. Do you need me to talk into this thing, or am I not loud enough on my own?
Yeah.
Well, it's good to be back here. Thank you. Sam asked me to come up and kind of give everybody a little bit of an update on the Cole County Bicentennial planning. Thought I would kind of hit that from a high level, and then any questions you all have. We'll have a calendar, and I'm going to talk kind of a bit loosely about the schedule, but we should have a calendar with dates more formally tied down either next month or potentially December, mostly because some of the events are still a little bit up in the air. So speaking of the schedule, obviously next year is the Cole County Bicentennial. It's November is the official bicentennial date. So we're in the process of that planning. We've had a number of meetings to discuss it. We're working on a schedule. The schedule, just loosely, for Cole County itself is we plan a kickoff in June in Marion. Marion was the original site of the county commission and county court. So we plan a kickoff at that location in June, probably a smaller event just to get things started. And then using the parish picnics, the salute to Jefferson City, the community events that go on during the summer and the very early fall. We'll have presentations at each of those. I think Sam will probably be leading those, but obviously that we would like the three of you to be involved in those at each and every one, particularly those that are in your relevant districts. But certainly, I think you should come to all of them if it's possible. As you know, there are lots of parish picnics, the summer events. As a result, we really cover the whole county pretty well. It's a great opportunity to get the story about 200 years of Cole County. At some point, we'd like to schedule a time for a placement of an obelisk on the courthouse grounds. I'll talk about that in just a second, too. But that would probably be the last pure Cole County event. As Sam mentioned in his comments of upcoming meetings, we are doing the 3-county bicentennial. Callaway, Boone, and Cole counties were all created in 2020 within just a few days of each other. And as a result, since we all border and we were all created at the same time, we thought we would do a joint bicentennial planning. The kickoff for that's April 16th. It'll be on the state capitol grounds. The governor and the first lady will be there for that. Really focused on kids as opposed to on adults. Sam, along with the other 2 presiding commissioners in Boone County and Callaway County, have sent letters off to the schools asking them to come up with a project with their next year's 4th grade class. I guess it's this year's 4th grade classes. It was next year's, now it's this year's 4th grade classes. To imagine the bicentennial, looking forward, looking back, however they want to imagine that. That process should be ongoing with the schools. And we anticipate, assuming that they all participate, that we'll have responses coming next month. It's not that far away now, Sam.
Yeah, I sat with Jim Jones at the communities, and of course, he's had a lot of, and I said, "You're doing it right," and he said, "Yeah," and then I've been in touch with Larry Lithicum, and so, yeah.
So that's the process we're going there, and then the classes that are the respective county winners, 2 classes from each county, will come to that April 16th kickoff and get a little bit more of a personalized discussion meeting with the governor and the first lady. Then the conclusion, then the 3 counties will go off and do their own thing. I kind of talked about what we'll do as Cole County. Final thing is November 16th-ish. We don't have a set date on that yet because we're trying to balance schedules. Across the river at the Katy Trail, North Jeff City Park, we want to do a monument dedication. It's a 3-sided obelisk. I don't know if you've seen pictures of it or not.
Yeah,
Sam,
okay.
It's a 3-sided obelisk. Each side has Cole County, Jefferson City, or excuse me, Cole County, Callaway County, and Boone County respectively. And then next to that, we're hoping that the state will do a state obelisk, and what we'd like to do is have that event be the handoff, the conclusion of our county bicentennial, and the real kickoff in the beginning of the state bicentennial, which is 2021. The obelisk, the Tri-County one, we've already talked a little bit about. We'd like to do a similar but smaller obelisk for the courthouse. That instead of being the 3 counties would be Cole County focused. And I know with the landscaping going on, it's appropriate to set aside some space for that. I don't know if you all have had discussions about setting aside that space. Mike Bates is on our committee and has been looking at that also. I know he's been very active in that process. So we'd like to take all the bicentennial monuments, ornaments, I don't know what the right, monuments that are on the courthouse grounds and probably try to co-locate them. With the bicentennial, there's the bicentennial, U.S. bicentennial, which I think is the flag post.
No, the flagpole, I think, was the Grand Army of the Republic,
Okay.
and then there's another plaque from the Daughters of the Grand Army of the Republic.
So
And
if we
now
could,
the Sons of the Union Veterans want to do a new flagpole or help pay for a new flagpole.
we thought if there's a way to coordinate the monuments, dedicate our history into one area, that would be really great, certainly with the bicentennial being focused there. Last but certainly not least, we're looking at doing a commemorative coin. We have a design for that. Yeah. Those are That's last year. That's the
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
dark one he's holding up is the sesquicentennial
Yeah.
coin.
This is what Governor Parson does. And this was St. Louis, so there's all kinds of,
So our thought was to do something analogous to the bicentennial, or excuse me, the sesquicentennial coin, do it in bronze, with one side being Cole County and the other side being the courthouse, as a commemorative coin. I do need to talk to somebody about the bidding process, because the county has appropriated very generously funds for the county, county for the bicentennial, but I think since it's probably an expenditure above the required amount, we'll have to go through the bidding process. We'd very much like to use local vendors, don't want to go out of the country or, if possible, out of the state, because it's our bicentennial, but we do recognize there are some bidding laws we have to comply with. So that's kind of a 10,000-foot overview. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you guys have. And I would suggest that we probably ought to schedule these updates on a more frequent basis, either monthly or maybe every 6 weeks, something like that, so that we keep you in the loop, particularly as we get into next year and events start occurring pretty quickly.
So I guess really the most pressing thing is the smaller obelisk that would be going on the courthouse grounds. And we need to pour the base for that like next week. So we need, we need a size that we need to make the base. And so this is the first time I've seen the smaller obelisk, the size of it. And so,
I think that one has a base on.
yeah, it has
That sketch has a
looks
base
like
on
it's
it.
almost 3 pieces. And so we can work out probably what gets engraved on it at a later date, but so obviously a fairly small 15-inch by 15-inch base, and then it looks like total height is 3 feet. So just, I mean, does that, I mean, it seems kind of short to me.
well, there's a bunch of different.
So the
there's a-
Tri-County obelisk that's being put together is a 6-foot tall
Right.
Obelisk, for lack of a better term, I guess is what it is, plus a 2-foot tall base. So the top of it will be approximately 8 to 10 feet tall, depending on how it's structured. So we wanted to make sure that the Cole County one was smaller than that to recognize that it's one county. We want the states to be a much larger one to recognize it's a state, so that there's kind of a synchronicity between all of them.
Yeah, I emailed these to you yesterday.
Oh, did you? Okay.
I'm,
Yeah, you
I'm,
should
I'm
have.
all for bigger. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to.
Well, I just,
But
so,
those are strictly for across the river. The one that
No.
we put up here in front, we can do whatever size we want.
right.
Well-
Well, this is just what he
Yeah.
had there.
I've got it all on.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've got that all,
I-
but that size really doesn't have anything to do with what we want to do on the front here.
Well, this is what kind of you're thinking was on the smaller one, wasn't it, Sam? The smaller obelisk
A
was.
smaller obelisk here, although I don't think we ever set on sizes,
But-
so that's the.
No,
But
that's,
that's gonna be totally different too, because it's not gonna have the 3 counties. It's
Right,
gonna be
it'll only be
focused.
Cole County based.
So
Yep.
we
Yeah.
can, we're not necessarily doing it with that,
Right. I'm fine with that.
so.
But-
And we're gonna have one monument on one side, but it needs to be similar
Right.
in size, so they don't.
So I guess that's what I'm asking. I mean, if you want it bigger and you want it the size of this, I mean, that's a 30-inch by 30-inch base. But I think we just need to make some decisions on what size it is.
How tall is that one out there?
It's 6 foot, every bit of 6 foot, I'd say.
So I was thinking it was fairly tall too.
Uh,
I think they need to be uniform, they don't have to be exact same size.
Right, but be close. I mean,
So,
The closest one that we looked at was on the courthouse at Callaway County.
yeah,
And that's a war veteran monument, and I think we measured that out, and it has a much larger base. I don't know if you've seen it or not. It's a 2-step base, so it's much taller off the ground.
right.
I think the monument, the obelisk itself was about 8 foot tall.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
from ground to tip, it was like 13 feet tall because there's so much base underneath it. They built the base
Right.
up on it. If we do a smaller obelisk and you do a larger base, you can elevate it too.
Sure.
There's also a cost factor. The one across the river that we're talking about, the 3-county one, which is a 6-foot obelisk with a 2-foot base, I think the cost, including all the etching, et cetera, was about $18,000.
Yeah, that's what I've got,
18.2 something.
297, and then that's for all three, right? Is it 16,000? No?
So there was some costs included in the site improvements project, I think, for a monument or something, I believe.
Okay,
But anyway, I guess my thing is if these dimensions, it's got a 30 by 30 base that's 8 inches tall, and then another base that's 26, it's a triangle, it's 6 inches tall, and then the basic monument is 68 inches or 70 inches tall. So,
70 inches would be just under 6 foot tall.
right. And then another 8 and another 6, so you're another 14 inches in height. And of course, that, they were talking about having an elevated base in the project too, so that any plaques or anything else could go underneath there, at least with the World War II monument that's out there.
probably on the flagpole too, because I think there's two
Right.
different plaques
Right,
on that flagpole, so. And that'll be 3 if the Sons of the Union Veterans,
sure.
yeah.
But I mean, are we good with something close to that? I mean, obviously, if the base is a little bit bigger, it wouldn't be.
Now, I
Big
just wanted to
thing.
give you some kind of
Right.
idea, because you had been so.
Right.
This came at kind of a good time.
I would pour a little bit larger base than what's spec'd out,
So if we
simply
had a,
because it gives you more surface area to adhere to.
I would try to make it uniform with the other one, and then
okay,
we need to let them know how much money's in it and let the bicentennial committee make their recommendation. My only concern was just not having the Boone, Callaway, and Cole one in front of the Cole County Courthouse. I wanted it to be pertaining to Cole County stuff, so, and he already said that's gonna be the,
I'm gonna get it on here for the current one, but I was thinking it was like 3 foot by 3 foot.
Let's see, it shows the basic top is 10 foot.
Right. Base of the top without the eagle on it is 10 foot. Oh, there it is. 4 foot 8 plus 2 plus 6 on each side. So that's not right. That's like a 6 foot base. So it's showing like a 6 foot base on that World War II monument. 6 foot by 6 foot. It's big,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
But I mean, there's some big stones that are underneath
Yeah.
that too, and it's pretty wide.
but at least that'll give you some kind of an idea of this.
But I mean, I think if the height is the same, that, you know, if the base was a little smaller, it'd be fine.
they don't have to be exactly the same, I would
Right.
think, but as long as one's not dwarfing the other,
Right,
and
I would agree.
and you know what your budget is on it, you can kind of work backwards from that too, and see what you can put in there. I forget what was sent on the bid for that,
I
but
thought it was 25,000.
Mm-hmm. I think it was half.
That was included in,
this year and half
no, no, there was 25,000 included in the site improvements
Oh,
project.
okay.
I don't remember what that one was. But that's different than what we had budgeted for the
Yeah,
bicentennial.
but they had put that into the site improvements project in case we wanted to just do that through that project.
Okay.
So then it would already been bid. Is that right?
I like that idea.
I went out to MDE yesterday too, just to see what they could do. This is like that seal, but we can add the bicentennial 1820 2020, or this is a bigger, two different designs. But if we want to do one this size, it's like $63. If we want to do a 10-inch, maybe to give to the communities, it's like $37. So I just kind of wanted to get prices and see what all they could do, so. But this would be Missouri walnut. And this would be dark, and all of this would be raised, so it would stay light.
So did we answer your question about the monument?
And from what I heard, I got $25,000 to come up with the monument.
Well, we're gonna
That's
do
what I heard.
some fundraising with maybe the Henry rifle and.
So you got a 6x6 base for the World War II, and I think the bases should probably be the same.
Right, I mean, obviously the base stone could be bigger, I mean, which probably wouldn't cost a ton more to just do the base stone larger, and then the monument could still be smaller.
They just
So-
need to know how much space to leave for it.
Right.
so-
Yeah.
Okay,
So
so
if
I'm
they
talking
can,
about the space they leave for it, leave
Right.
the same amount of space. Okay.
We will work within that budget and stay under it.
That'd be good.
Okay.
Okay, I don't have
Correct.
any further questions, no?
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Mark.
And let me know when we can get on the agenda to have a further update. That'll also let us work with our committee. It's good to structure the committee meeting somewhere shortly before we have a update. That way we're all on the same page.
Just whenever you want on there, just get on the Melody.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we have representatives from all over Cole County on the committee, so.
Great. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks for ramrodding that.
I think Sam's the ramrod. I just-
No, your
I know
father, your father did this, so, you're.
A lot
walking in
different,
your
lot different
father's-
back then. Air shows and all sorts of other fun stuff, so. Little different time we live in today.
Yeah.
All right,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you all.
All right. thanks,
Okay,
Dan.
commission comments. Bids and contracts, signing of annual SURF election form for 2020.
Okay, well, this is the election for the 4% for the county to pay that for anybody that was hired after 2002. You guys have elected in the last, let's say, 7 or 8 years to pay that 4%, so I'm asking you to pay that again for 2020. I do believe Christian is working with that in the budget for next year.
I'm good with it, you guys?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I move that we sign the annual SURF election form.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Approval and signing of state Narcan grant.
We brought this up a couple weeks ago, so Jill really didn't find anything. I think part of it was
I
the
sent- I
liability.
Yeah, I sent it to Rick and never heard back,
So.
so speak or forever hold your peace.
Mhm.
Yep.
I move
Do you guys
that we
have-
approve and sign the state Narcan grant.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Thank
Do
you.
you have anything to add?
Boy, you do a good job. Great, Matt. Okay. Approval and signing of automatic gate opener and chain link gate for public works.
This is for 2019-27 automatic gate opener and chain link gate. We had to extend the bid opening out because we didn't get any. But we came through with one with Williams Gate Service for $14,877.02. And that's who myself and Larry both recommend for it, and they do have it in the budget.
I assume theirs is out of not working or not working very well or something. I didn't really
Don't
get a
have
chance.
one.
They don't have one.
Automatic gate. Since I've been at the county,
Just
a few years, that gate has been a
Right.
big thing, yeah, this is
Okay.
a big deal, and it'll allow us to be able to, sheriff's department, whoever needs to get fuel can come and go and not have to worry about remembering to close the gate and lock it when they leave, so, after hours, so it'll be a big help for us.
Okay.
Yeah.
You got a contract? I move that we approve and sign the contract with, what is it? Williams Gate
Williams
Service
Gate.
LLC for the automatic gate opener and chain link gate.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Approval and signing for renewal of uniform and mat services with Aramark for Public Works.
This is a renewal with Airmark. They did increase it by 5%, but Larry was okay with that as well. And it is in their budget for 2020.
So just subject to annual renewal and,
It has another renewal next year. And then we can open it up for bid if we wanted.
and they can increase the price every year or? I
Yeah.
guess? Okay. That's good.
Yeah. They've been happy with them. I think when we bid it out, I wasn't a whole lot.
I move that we sign the contract renewal for uniform garments rental and release with Aramark.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Signing of the First Watch sole source for EMS.
This was approved, I think, a couple of weeks ago for EMS. It was for $7,500 with First Watch.
I move that we approve and sign the First Watch sole source advertisement.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
God, he's just flying right through today. Signing of contract 2019-24, abatement cleanup of 9003 Osage Front Street.
Is this with Binkley?
Yeah, this was approved last week and we got the contract signed back from them.
I move that we sign the contract for the abatement of Osage Front Street.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Gosh, we're just lying, be out of here in no time. Unfinished business. New business. Do we have any unfinished business?
Yeah.
Yes, 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 yes.
So last week, there was a document that I forgot to have you guys sign for the Zerker. So this is just, you've already approved it, this is just, need the signature on that. That was an oversight on my part from Zerker.
So we already awarded it. We signed a contract. And then it's gotta have an authorized signature to sign it.
So it's a work order is basically what it is from them, but it's just, they forgot to send the document, they said.
Yeah, we talked a little about this. I don't even know why we gotta bring this up because we already approved all of it, so.
So it's a work order, is what it is?
So it's a work order, but because it has the statement encumbering or, to encumber,
Dollars and authority to encumber.
We encumbered it when we signed the contract. So, I mean, it's something we can look at changing later on, but we shouldn't have to even waste time with that up here. So, all right.
I move that we sign the work order with Zerker.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay, any other unfinished business? Accounts payable review.
I'd ask for approval of accounts payable pending review.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approval of change order number 2, Railroad Spur Extension Project.
We've, excuse me, we previously talked about doing working with the city to add the replacement of the crossing on Militia Drive, which is under their jurisdiction and their responsibility for maintenance. Kind of went back and forth on how we were gonna do that, and finally got it down to the city would just pay for that. They would just assume that responsibility from here on out and not do an agreement for joint maintenance of the whole line. So they asked that we add this to our project with the same contractor as a change order. It'd basically just be a pass-through. since it's our contract, we'll pay the contractor and the city will reimburse us. Along with the change order, there would be an agreement addendum to account for the necessary language for the payback of the funds that we would expend for the change order. The change order for that work is in the amount of $141,000. And this is change order number 2 added to number 1. So the grand total current to date would be $570,954.90. And the contractor has signified that there's some equipment or material order time, lead time for that of about 4 to 6 weeks. They're tentatively scheduled to do the work, if approved, the weekend before Thanksgiving. It'll be weekend work due to having to close the road down completely to do the replacement of the crossing. And the city preferred to do that over the weekend rather than during the week and have a detour set up and try to minimize the effects of traffic. So.
They can do it that quickly.
Yeah, it's a full 2 days of work, but yeah, they can do that. Now, I will say that the actual replacement of the pavement is not part of this. The city will do that with their own crews, and they'll do that during the week staged. They'll be able to open traffic up with some temporary pavement in the meantime and just do it in 2 different phases, but still have traffic going. Is there any questions?
So how much does this actually put us in the middle of the contractor and the city trying to work all this stuff out, especially with that crossing that's gonna be shut down, that serves the National Guard, SEMA, the prison, numerous other businesses? I mean, I just don't want us to be in the middle of all that when it's really their project.
Well, I did, in the addendum number 2 to the cooperative agreement, agreed to by, or Jill reviewed and approved, and then Ryan did as well with the city. It does state in here that all coordination services necessary between Union Pacific and/or its contractors shall be performed or administered by the city, as well as all public notices for necessary road closures shall be issued by the city. So the agreement kind of places that responsibility on them. Now, you know, we are still under contract with the contractor, so there is a little bit of, I guess, risk associated with those issues that you raised, Chris, to us. But yeah, it's a good question. I think by agreement with the city and them having jurisdiction of the track itself, you know, it'd be their responsibility for that crossing.
So what, I mean, is any of this weather dependent?
I would speculate and say not too much. I mean, a complete downpour and all that whole weekend probably would shut it down. But if it was really cold, or if it was, you know, misting, little snow here or there, but nothing serious, I don't think it'd matter, because it's what they gotta do. They'll build the track off-site, or just to the side. They'll have it all put together, and then they'll have to dig it out, remove the old, and then place a new one in. So, you know, yeah, weather could impact it, but probably not to the degree if we were building the roadbed or the railroad grade or anything like that. It probably wouldn't affect it like that.
Those are the only questions I got.
I don't know if there is a good time to do it, but,
Yeah, ideally it'd be a lot
It's-
sooner, but
yeah.
yeah, kind of not to us or the engineering department, you know, at the city. We tried to work through different ways to get this done, and, you know, they had a few things they were trying to figure out on their end, and it just delayed to the point that now either we do it now and get it done, ideally before Thanksgiving. I guess a backup date for that would be a week or 2 into December. You know, weather-wise, the further you get into the winter, the harder it can be, but, you know, it's really kind of the city's thing, their issue to do. We're just helping them by, you know, accommodating them through our contract. So.
Yeah. I'll put on my I'm okay. That's-
Yeah, I'm fine with it too.
Take a
Helping-
picture quick, Debbie, and then I'm
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
take it off.
Just keep it on.
Helping the city out with this and
Yeah.
getting it done. at the
You wanna
same
borrow it,
time while
Larry?
they're, working on it, so. So then they have to agree to it. Once they agree to it, then it's all good to go.
The city's process for their, approval of the agreement drags it into the final reading and approval would be November, I'm not sure on the exact date, but it's a Monday, like the 19th or something like that, or 18th, whatever that Monday is of that week,
Of November?
November, yeah.
So how are they gonna order materials and have it with a 4 to 6 week lead time and,
We would sign the change order, which,
yeah, so there's my problem.
yeah, and it's a legitimate problem, and I totally
Yeah,
understand where you're
I
coming
mean,
from.
I would not stick my neck out for somebody else. I
But
mean, no contractor would.
But we're gonna sign it, and if they decide, well, we're not gonna pay you, we're not gonna decide to sign this, it comes out of their cooperative money.
Or the road and bridge property tax that we give them every year. I mean, there's ways to recoup that money if they
Yeah.
choose not to sign the agreement or something,
Yeah.
But
So-
I don't think we'll go down that road. I wouldn't, I just can't imagine that happening, but you just never know when you agree to something ahead of time. There's no guarantee 100%.
So, obviously, if they wanted to get it done in a hurry, they could waive the rules and they could put it on the agenda and they could sign it tomorrow. So, I mean, if they want it done, then they need to jump through hoops and not have us jump through hoops. Just like if we had an emergency situation here, we would have an emergency meeting. We'd say it's an emergency clause and we need to get it done. And that's, so, I mean, I hate to be difficult, but, I'm a contractor, and if you said, oh, yeah, go ahead. Yeah, well, give me the contract, sign it, execute it. Because this is way out of the scope of everything we've done so far in a joint project, so.
I would be more hesitant if we didn't have the other road and bridge money that we can hold over their heads or pull it from in the future. I mean, we've essentially got some collateral there.
Yeah.
I understand that.
I mean, I agree. I mean, it's not our fault that we can get stuff done and they can't, but
Yeah, we
I'll do
wouldn't,
it to
we
help 'em
wouldn't,
out
we
here.
wouldn't do it that way, but I'm, again, yeah, just withhold it from the East High Street or. They're gonna do East High Street, it'd be kinda like Capitol Avenue where the price went up.
I'm fine if you guys are good with that.
I'm good
mean, I
with
just.
it. I think,
We're
I
gonna be-
think,
help our neighbors out. A little temporary
I think
problem.
5% interest, though, I like that by one email, it charge a little interest.
I would hope some favors would be returned in the future,
Yeah, I think,
because we are kind of going out on a limb to some degree.
yeah.
All right, so you got a change order we need to sign?
Got the change order and that agreement as well.
The addendum.
The addendum too, yeah.
Agenda.
Addendum number 2.
You wanna wear my helmet? There.
So I move that we sign change order number 2 for the Railroad Spur Extension Project.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Can I make one comment about the railroad real quick while we're on that topic? The inspector for Union Pacific came and visited with us yesterday on site and went through the whole thing and had nothing but good things to say about the work the contractor did, and everything's approved. And there's a process he has to go through to basically authorize or approve it to start being used by Union Pacific. So that will be done soon, and we'll be in good shape.
Okay. Then I move that we sign the addendum number 2 for the Morris Development Project.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
They got something coming up too, don't they, Morris, for their 5-year and their expansion celebration? Yeah, it's November 1st, so.
We're gonna have a party?
Oh, I'm sure.
Do we have anything else before we go into budget discussion?
So I just wanted to kind of go back to unfinished business just a little bit. We had a conference call and a meeting, I guess, of the Port Authority yesterday. And so Decision Innovation Solutions is working on getting the survey out. So we're trying to finalize the survey, and it'll be going out to probably 500 to 600 businesses and probably about a 15 county region to try to understand what is being shipped in and out of all those counties, and then obviously working towards the end result of developing a plan to implement and try to get our port up and running. But obviously we need all this information first, and so they've developed a list of about 2,100 businesses with different NAICS codes, and so some of the things we're looking at right now is forestry products, and some other things that could be shipped into this area. So anyway.
Well, that definitely needs to be done to find out the private interest in it, but are they gonna look into, and we were briefly talking about the tour that we're supposed to do later on, are they gonna go talk to the other ports like Boonville and see how it was pretty successful from the beginning, from what I understand, and now it's, shh, hey, bothering me. Now I forgot my train of thought. Damn squirrels.
Boonville and how they were successful.
Boonville.
Yeah.
So are they gonna talk to them too and see what happened and where things kinda fell off the grid on that? Because that's the way I understand it.
Right.
That one doesn't have so much traffic going, and why?
So there's been a lot of talks, and obviously everybody focuses on ag. Well, everybody that does ag is pretty much going to Brunswick. I mean, everybody's either going to Brunswick or they're going to the Mississippi River. And so, anyway, for us we have to do some value-added stuff to end up doing any ag here. There's still a big push for containerized shipping. Seems like there could be a lot more people that would use it if there was containerized shipping. Still in talks there. But one of the things as we went through the survey yesterday was, do you ship anything by river, or do you receive anything from the river? And so we started talking about that, and some people may not know that they're getting goods from the river, but they're just bringing it in by truck. They may be shipping it somewhere by truck, and it may be getting put on the river or the rail, or so. I think just to know what type of materials are being brought in, and they may not know that another company, 100 miles away might be using the same product. So anyway, but I think there's, as we get into this, I think we'll know more, but obviously we're having regular either conference calls or whatever, just to kind of monitor the progress of that survey. And so they may need some assistance from us to get some people to fill out the survey. And even though it's, some information that we need, some people will be reluctant to give it probably.
I think just all the paper that Scholastic and Command Web get in to print all their stuff, I think, it's 8 times cheaper to ship by barge than it is by truck.
Right.
Talking with the Camp Peters, they ship their pet food to China in bulk, and then it's bagged, I guess, in China. So, if you've got those containers,
But they ship all that out of their South Carolina plant.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, so, I mean, from what I've been told, they don't really see that they could use the barge service here locally, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know what that looks like, but anyway, it's
I
good
just
to
see
talk to all
trucks-
those.
I just see all those trucks coming over
Mhm.
there.
No, the study just saw that they're looking at everything, and I think they need to find the private interest, and then that's probably the next step is to, before we wanna get the land conveyance and try to help that get through next year, so.
Right.
Okay, that was really my only question or comment on it.
Okay.
It's good, I'm glad we're still moving on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then we need, Gary Wheeler, who is our representative, served his year, and that will be expiring in November. So we're looking to fill his spot. He doesn't have the time to continue, so.
Okay.
Anyway, so if
You
you,
just gotta be Cole County resident.
I'm not even sure of that. I'd have to read that, but I think it should be. But obviously, if there was a really good candidate that could represent us, I'd have to read the bylaws on that, but anyway, because I think there could be a lot of people that would have good knowledge that I'm not sure that it's that important that you even live in Cole County if you're interested in promoting river traffic, so. But I got some feelers out there if you guys think of somebody or whatever. We just need to get it filled here pretty soon.
Yeah,
Okay.
That's all I got.
okay. Miss Kristen,
So, we didn't get a chance to talk about capital the other day when we kind of talked about budget. I'm kind of just looking for some priorities. I did send you a list of, kind of compiling the priorities of some of the departments into like A, B, and C. I do know that we have some funds in general fund that we have saved the last few years in our budgets, that I don't want to build in ongoing expenses, but possibly some one-time expenses could be expended out of that savings. So I'm really just looking for what your priorities are for next year, what we're looking to spend. At the top there, you'll see current open POs, so that will kind of tell me, if those are still open at the end of the year, those are already encumbered, so they will roll over. That will kind of be where we're at with our carry forward in that fund as well. But after that, you'll see kind of the priority A, priority B, priority C. One that I know is higher on the list is the new telephone system. I think that's one that is gonna have to be tackled in 2020. But the rest are kind of what you guys want to do. I did include some of the department's requests, for capital as well. I don't know where you wanna start, what you wanna talk about.
Start at the top.
So yeah, the top
Whoa.
is open purchase orders.
Right there.
Uh,
So what's the clock bell? I mean, is that clock on top of the courthouse?
Yeah, that's what I talked to Jeff about, and he said put it on capital. A lot of the linkage going up to the tower for the clock hands and with the bells right on. The company that called me had talked to Jeff several years ago when it was not working, and said needed to look at maybe replacing the clasp up there that holds the bell due to wear and it might fall. This was before my time, so I'm just going by what the gentleman said. I had sent the information, forwarded the information to Jeff, and he said put it on for next year's to look at.
Okay. So it's the actual bell that needs to be replaced?
It's probably the hardware that's up there as well as the drive linkage going up to the clock, keeps the clock running like it's supposed to.
Yeah, I don't think it was the bell. that again. Let's put it in there for this year, we'll take a look at it.
Okay,
We may have to have somebody else take a look at it and give us another, because that's been 8 years ago.
Yeah.
okay. So what about this, the flooring at IT? I mean, we kind of looked at that. I mean, I'm good with moving forward. I mean, I thought we were wanting to do something there pretty quick.
Yeah, and it was about
Mhm.
half of that.
Yeah,
Okay, so that's a yes, and I think that's,
Is that maybe a yes for this year, or you want to wait till
I-
next year?
well, I mean, I think it's a yes. We need to
Plan
go
on doing
pretty
it this
quick.
year
Yeah.
Because we wanna get it before the furniture gets down there, because it wouldn't make sense to come back and have to move all that furniture again,
Okay,
so.
yeah.
And the elevator module for Carnegie.
Yeah, it's upgraded, it's most like technology over there is mid-70s, late 60s, early 70s, and parts for it are getting obsolete. That number I had got from Otis prior, so I'm sure we'll still have to put it out for bid.
Is that the only access we have for ADA over there?
Yes, it is.
what would we do in the interim while you're fixing that? Is that an issue? Just a question, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
It goes down, we can't get parts for it, it could be even longer.
Right.
So if somebody needs to see the public defender or something, we just have to arrange for them to meet somewhere else temporarily. I mean, if you've got to work on it and it's not ADA, then,
So I'm kind of a hold on that one. I'd like to see some of these other big ones get knocked out. Obviously, some small ones we could knock out too, but, I don't know what you guys think. I mean, grease trap releasement, I don't even know what that is.
Grease trap replacement is what
It's supposed to be a replacement, that would be me.
That is the grease trap down at the juvenile center. Last time we took it apart, cleaned it out. It's got a hole in the bottom of it, so it's needing to be replaced. I just kinda
Okay,
patched it back together to make it through. Cause they're gonna have to bust up the floor to put a new one in.
is that something we're gonna have to bid?
That's the price I got from the contractor.
Okay.
So,
I would be okay with moving forward with that. I don't know where you guys are at, but,
So how much do we have to work with? Cause I like working backwards.
you're gonna have $1 million next year, and you got about 800,000 right now, don't you? For this year?
Well, so, pull that up for me. So like I said, the carry forward amount is kind of dependent on how much of that capital we spend yet this year, but my estimate is gonna be close to 2 million coming in for carry forward. So I have about a $2.2 million placeholder in there for capital at the moment, if you want a $500,000 contingency.
So we got 2.2 million to spend, roughly.
So if that
Does that count what we've already, those projects
So
up
that
top?
2.2 would need to include that 443,000 that you have encumbered if you do not spend it all this year.
Okay, so whether we spend that this year or we spend it next year, if you take that 400,000 out of the 2.2, we've got 1.8 to spend.
Right. And I think that there is some room in general fund to have some one-time projects as well. I would say you could possibly spend another $1 million to $1.5 million out of there. We've had a few taxes that have come in better than we expected this year, so they were one-time savings, so I'd like it to be one-time expenses. But we can find a particular project that you want to spend out of general and budget that in as well.
I'll look at the stuff that we have to get done right now. So like the grease trap, if that's something that, if we have complete failure tomorrow, that's gonna be a problem. So is it something that hits on the verge of that, and we may want to address it now and have less inconvenience and problems?
It's only gonna get worse, Jeff. It's a steel
So-
box in the ground, it's rusting apart.
And I mean, that one's a small dollar item there too, so that one's easier to throw in there.
I mean, so the two big ones that I'd like to look at doing, either getting bid or whatever, is that one, the phone system. I think that's something we have to do. And then the HVAC here in the annex, the 650.
So I think that you need to make sure that you're looking at the projects in the right order as well. So if there's a possibility of people moving around, I don't know that you should tackle HVAC until you know what that movement's going to be, because you don't wanna have to redo HVAC. So if you see movement of people or offices, I think you need to look at that first. Just so we do them in the right order and we don't have to go back and redo something to retrofit it if you would change something around. So just keep that in mind.
That's a good point. That's a VRV system, but basically you run the pipes in and,
Yeah, it's, once you size everything, it's done. So if we start moving stuff around, it's not gonna be as easy to fix.
what do you mean? Still got the same amount of area.
Yeah. But if you're talking size-wise, if you have to increase the capacity of a couple of units, that may change the piping size to that unit. And you start off from the unit, the main unit, with a certain diameter pipe, and then you make your changes out all the way through the system.
Or you make this a high-traffic courtroom versus offices, could change the dynamics of how that's set
How
up.
much cooling you need, and that's gonna change the piping size, it's gonna change system capacity.
Wouldn't you have I mean, so I've got this whole space on the second floor, and so your pipe size isn't gonna be big enough to run everything on the second floor?
It is based on how they do their calculations. They take up the total load that they will put on that unit. They will start off with, say, 1.5-inch pipe, and then as they come through, they're gonna step it down to keep A, the flow of the refrigerant going through it, and B, how much they need to pick up off those units. That's, I don't know if a VRF would be the best solution for this building.
Okay.
After been looking at it now for a year and a half. Maybe we just go back to a 4-pipe system and use that for this building. I know once the heating and cooling load gets figured for this building, I know the cooling load is gonna go up more than what we've got now outside. Because when it's 90 degrees, that unit outside right now is running 95%. And if it's 95, it's running 100%. So that tells me that unit's undersized, big time. But we need more. I don't like the way the system is putting presently with one unit serving 3 and 4 offices. Because you never can make everybody happy in those 3 or 4 offices. You're gonna have somebody hot, you're gonna have somebody cold.
Welcome to politics.
Hence why our bills are so high.
Correct. For the little extra money that you can put an air handler in each one of those rooms would make everybody happy. Now we have units in the back that, there's 4 of them back there. One controls the crosswalk, one controls upstairs, one controls, the way they're set up and designed, coming out of the floor for some of your heating, some of your returns are in the floors. You can do a lot better systems now. That would be something for a engineering firm to come in and take a look at and sit down and draw something up.
I mean, so,
You could do, if you're not changing the top floor, you could do a VRF system up there easy.
So basically, you know, when, if we, say we make this court, then would that be the best time to,
If we decide to do it, that would be the best time to do
okay,
the RSC.
to do it all, yeah, do it as part of that.
So, I mean, obviously you want to do things in the right order. And so we could do a remodel over at Adams. Cause you're gonna have to vacate these offices before you can remodel this floor. And so how long is it gonna be before you have the money to do all that?
Well, that's what I was gonna say, is that we have the money, we don't have to spend it down right now, because we've got some big projects coming up with Adams Street, if you wanna do something with moving people, and that always sounds easy, but then everybody gets new furniture and flooring when you do that too. The old jail, we got a ton of stuff that we can right hold the money, and then when it comes up, work on it. Adams Street, we could get that fixed up, get the shell done, not actually have to put walls in it, but have it ready, that all we gotta do is put walls up. And it's ready to go.
I mean, you got 2021, you'll have the 5th judge.
But the state's gonna give us money to help pay for that, right?
Yeah, and Santa Claus is gonna come too. December 20.
But what, I mean, what do they do if we don't have room for a courtroom?
Just like every other courthouse that has 6 or 8 judges in it and only has 3 or 4 courtrooms, they figure it out.
Yeah.
I don't have a
So-
problem trying to work with them on it.
Well, and it can be, I mean,
When you look at the bottom dollar on both these years, 7.2, 7.4, 7.5, and considering our 15% of that sales tax that will end in a couple of years is only about $800,000 to $900,000 a year. There is something we're going to have to do.
I mean, do we look at it, I know remodeling of the courthouse, rough numbers, around $6 million. We don't take that in a 5-year sales tax. So probably gonna have to look at a bond or some way to finance that. And if you do that, you might as well throw the old jail into it and just do that whole big, as one big project.
yeah.
We can do floor by floor. And stretch it out over a longer amount of time.
Then our other buildings keep getting older and older and older. They are still going to need these repairs. I mean, you know, these type of repairs are not gonna go away. Just the repairs alone eat up most of our money. Not let alone these big projects. Bond on the jail will be paid off in 2023.
I mean, so if the, you know, we just need to be all on board on what our plan is, and obviously new people come in and new plans get made, but I mean, if you're gonna make this a courtroom, why would you replace the old jail? I mean, you're gonna need more offices there. I mean, obviously it's in disrepair and something needs to happen, whether it comes down or,
Well, that's the deal. We can figure that out too, because even brought up was between the annex and the courthouse was finishing that off. We lose 4 parking places, but then if you take the old jail, you probably still have to have the place where we bring the prisoners in, and so.
right, you still have to have some type of a sally port, but a sally port and an entire building are probably
Yeah.
very different.
Yeah,
Could be worked into the breezeway there.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, you could.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
could make
that's not a bad idea.
Sallyport on this side or something.
So this is why I'm bringing you the list, is just to try to get some ideas of what we're thinking of, or
And there's some big ticket items, and you can't technically divide those out within 6 to 7 years to complete when you're in the middle of a project, you know, i.e. the old jail, i.e. the courthouse itself. Those are not something you're gonna stagger.
No, I'm like Greg, I think the old jail, whenever we start working on the courthouse, that's time just to bring it down. And
What was the flooring and paint at Public Works? I mean,
Something they've asked for.
Yeah.
Painting and flooring, PC tile out there, some of the other offices are pretty well wore out. Larry's office is pretty bad, his carpet's pretty bad.
Larry's retiring.
Oh.
I didn't say that. Just several places, I know we spent some money out there and did some flooring in a few areas. Just, they had asked for it.
I'm just curious. I mean, they'd like to have a new facility out there too, so. Try to rework all that. That's probably not even on there.
May have been in the next year. I don't know. I don't see it.
I don't have it on any of my stuff, because I thought they.
Oh, here it is. Flooring and painting. That's,
Oh, yeah.
that's the bottom of the list.
I don't know if we just need to have a work session and try to come up with a plan, you know, of stuff to accomplish over the next short-term plan and a long-term plan, and if it looks like we need to do some bonding or whatever to get some of this stuff done, I mean,
Well, just because the money's there, don't mean we have to spend it. We can save it, and then we can have more money to do some of this stuff.
I think you need to think about design and things as well. So if there's something that you're wanting to do, it may not be next year, but it could be getting someone to design the building or lay out this building's HVAC if you would change around things. I think we need to take the steps to start moving towards those ideas. It may not be tackling one of them next year, but
I like Chris's idea, but we need to kind of figure out what we want to do, because if we do, we've got Adams Street, there's no sense letting it sit there empty.
right?
And we got people wanting more room. So we need to look at how we want to do that.
So I mean, if that's step one, that's fine. Let's get everybody together and IT and all that stuff together and see what it's gonna take to get and who we're moving over there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think that's gonna be the first step, is who you're thinking you're moving, and then getting those people together to decide what it is they need.
Well, and then where they're vacating, will that fit the other needs that we have? Or is it really worth moving if it doesn't fit the other needs, you know what I mean? To invest that into that, and then you find out what you're leaving open is not gonna accommodate what you need to, then what have you accomplished?
Well, let's set that up. That
So
could
is
be an
that-
all-day meeting right there.
Is that our priority then?
I would think getting something done with Adams Street would be.
Okay.
And I think that one of the things that was mentioned was getting the collector and assessor in the same
Mm-hmm.
vicinity, in the same building. They could probably share an office.
Well, that's how you had me draw
That's
it
what-
up. I said Jeff had me draw it up, and Larry and Chris in the same office.
Sharing an office?
Sharing an office.
10 by 10?
Yeah.
But I mean, if there's enough room for all of that over there, we may not,
Reinvest on my,
want list. We may still have to have, you know, some of the Carnegie building for
I still think Carnegie would be great for the commission.
I'm not opposed to it.
Just put us in that, and then have the recorder and the collector and the assessor and the clerk in the 209 Adams.
You're gonna run out of room faster than all of that.
We could even put Kristen with us.
And just because I was here, I'll just have to say, when we moved over to this building, it came down to you guys having to make a decision, because it didn't, because everybody wants what everybody wants, you know, so.
Yeah, but you got some other people with other ideas besides what we have. I mean, even talking about using this breezeway through there, I never thought about that. I think that's a very feasible idea to use that space in there. Now, we may find out differently later on, we start looking at cost or something, but
If you did that with the floors line up, or you could make them,
They wouldn't necessarily have to line up, but you'd have to figure out a way to get into into each floor for handicap accessibility, but, I mean, you could have doors on both sides.
yeah, I don't think they would line up, but you need to expand this out and gain quite a bit of room with 3 floors and still have a breezeway there. I don't know,
It would sure
it was
help
just
them.
brought up. There's a lot of questions.
And of course, want to be a part of this discussion too, so.
Want to figure out security.
So, sounds to me like we want to move forward with talks on Adams Street, and then what about the phones? I mean, I was thinking that was almost we had to do that.
I kind of thought that was one of them things we had to do too.
I think that one has to be on the list, according to Brian, that's gonna have to be done,
Where was that one at?
right below
That-
Adams.
I mean, if Adams Street's really gonna cost $1.5 million, then you're pretty much out of money.
And that's if nothing breaks between now and then, that has to be fixed.
Well, like I said, I mean, I think that there is some money in general that
Right.
we could set aside. So if you wanted to say that we wanted to pay for this phone system out of general, I think we can do that. As long as we're structuring that spend down as one-time expenses and not ongoing.
Okay. But I mean, you know, obviously those two would be big projects for the year, and so obviously we could look at some of the other smaller items moving forward.
And there are some requests from departments that, you know, I think we tackle throughout the year. And I think they can talk about those when they come in to talk about the budget. But I think there are some things on there that we probably do need to tackle. I know Greg had some equipment that he's wanting and just some office things. I do know I have IT's office furniture on here. Is that something we're thinking is gonna be 19 as well?
Oh, we already ordered.
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Or
I'll
we
take that,
approved it.
their carpet, and kind of move it up into the purchase order or encumbered, since we're kind of a yes on those already. Do you see anything in the priority Bs or the priority Cs that you think is a priority A that you want to?
I'm gonna go back up to the A's yet, with Judy here on your, I don't know, these are some small costs, but, so the mats, you don't have any mats under the desk, I mean, those are floor savers to me. And then office chairs. Kitchen sink and cabinet, that might not, is that one a priority?
Well, when people bring their lunch in, and it's been this way ever since I've been there, there isn't anywhere to wash anything or to rinse dishes. You know, most of the people bring their lunch in. It looks like the sink in there was maybe pulled somewhere out of the men's facility left over, and that's what we've been using.
Yeah, then the Ricoh copy machine.
The
Do we
one
usually do
Yeah.
those under Brian's or IT?
We buy them out of Kaplan.
They have not been coming out of the IT budget.
Well, I thought he had them on some kind of a rotation basis that we're trying to replace stuff. and-
Not copy machines. He does
Okay.
as far as like monitors and towers and things like that, but not, copy machines. And there is a separate list at the bottom for information systems, so you can see Brian's requests there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So what is the status of your machine then, Judy? Is that something that's gonna, it's ready to die, or we can put a Band-Aid on it and limp along another year, or how long is it gonna last?
No, I don't know. We haven't had any problems with it this year, but the year prior, we had it serviced quite a few times. But this past year so far, the last 10 months here,
Don't say that.
Yeah.
it's been functioning, so
In the pretrial,
we
they
would
talked
be in
about.
trouble if it didn't work. If it just stopped, it would be really bad. So I didn't know. I think when I checked into it in February, the longevity expectation is about 7 years, and we will be going on 8.
So we
that's
basically gotta be
I would
ready
say
for
we
it.
could Put a Band-Aid on it if need be, but I don't know what that would cost, depending on what happens to it.
Sometimes when you get to those older machines, you pay more for the maintenance
Mhm.
costs at that point, just because of
Yep.
the probability of them going down.
But we've been lucky this year that it's not been an issue. Could start back over tomorrow though, but, so pretrial release, that's what, didn't Donnie come over and talk to us about that software?
So yes, they've been looking at a new software that hopefully saves them some time and money, because right now I think they're using multiple ways to track things. This would give them the ability to do it all in one system.
Weren't they also asking for another employee?
They
Or
had
half
some,
on.
they had some salary changes, yes.
Mhm.
I would think that software would be a good spend on it, be able to make them able to do that more efficiently, maybe with even less people.
And that was just kind of a placeholder. I think I was waiting on final number of what that, I think they demoed a software and stuff, so I don't know if that's the final number or not.
I mean, so where are these, so Brian's got $167,000 worth of upgrades in his
So-
request, so.
We have a computerization line in the sales tax budget as well.
Mhm.
The last few years, we've put about 225,000 in there. We don't always spend it all, but it's kind of a placeholder for those types of needs.
And there's lots of things that come up during the year.
Yeah.
So that wouldn't be included in your 1.8 at all.
It wouldn't.
No.
It's got its own line.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's great to try to save and get some of these things done, but the longer we wait, the more stuff comes up and the more, I mean, so we gotta kinda knock some of these things out as we're going, otherwise it's just it's gonna grow faster than we're saving.
Yeah, so I'm kinda going through these and find out, you know, it's a copy machine, it's not like if it blows a tire, it's gonna ruin everything else and you get run off the road and end up totaling your car, but they also have people in there every day, so that's something we need to look at
Right.
taking care of, having it on the back burner ready to go. Greg's got a lot of things on there too, and they're all in priority A. Looking at at some of them, like
So-
which ones would you be able to do
My
without?
my question on floor machines is, should we stagger that a little bit so that they don't all come to end of
I
life at the
haven't bought a
same
whole
time?
lot. What I have bought are still working good. The ones that I've inherited is, I think they've gone out to surplus and bought them, because a lot of them are from the mid-nineties. Yeah, I probably could get by another 2 years or so.
Well,
That's what
I'm just
I've
wondering if maybe you buy 2 a year for the next couple of years to like roll them in so that it's not all end of life at the same time.
Well, yeah. I probably could get by with buying one next year and staggering it off. Because the other ones, we've already gone through and fixed them. But, you know, they're just getting old and wore out. And like I said, some of them were bought from surplus because we've got the surplus ID tag on them. So, happened where they only bought them. And with us going to vinyl plank flooring, I really don't know if I need to replace them. If we're going to carpet like this and vinyl plank flooring, I really don't need scrubbers
Yeah.
and buffers. Just move them around from building to building.
Did Public Works give us a capital request too?
Their priority A's is the HVAC and the garage doors and doors
I got
replacement.
that from Larry and Cliff.
They didn't have a mower on theirs too?
I don't know what they turned in. They just asked if I would put,
I don't remember getting a mower, but that, I could have missed it. If you think a Parks mower, or you think
Yeah.
a mower at Public Works?
Parks.
I don't remember seeing it, but that does not mean that I may have missed it.
So we got the phones.
Basically, the phones is what I hear right now, and then start having meetings between the collector, assessor, and anybody else thinking about that Adam Street place. Annex two. I mean, you don't have to approve any of these other equipment right now. She's just wanting you to know what you've got to tackle here. And the money that's available within the budget right now. So we can skip to another capital, go to the sheriff, go back to information, go to EMS.
I mean, most,
I don't know that there's a ton to talk about with some of the others. If you wanna skip to EMS, we kind of went over theirs the other day, and Matt made some revisions to that list.
So on capital improvements, just in general that we did, we're pretty much, we're done with it for now.
Well, the
I think-
budget's gonna look like, basically like this.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, it's not it's a few seconds behind.
But we're looking at the phones, and then the other stuff that you put up on top. Chris mentioned some stuff we need to possibly look at before it gets worse and causes more problems. So did you have anything in particular in mind on that? Or Sam, do you have anything, or are we ready to jump to the sheriff?
you know, a lot of them small ticket items, I just think,
EMS, I'm sorry.
yeah, I think we just knock them out and, but it just, doesn't seem like we got much done this year as far as capital stuff, other than purchasing Adam Street, so. And site improvements and parking lot, I mean, a few little things, but not a lot.
I think that's the big thing, is you just need to start trying to have a plan in place of what the next step is and things like that. We had 1.5 in capital budgeted this year, and we only spent probably 600,000 of that. So we don't wanna get to the end of our 5-year sales tax and have a ton of money we haven't spent. We wanna make sure we're planning what those projects are. We obviously have a list that's way larger than what we bring in. We just need to make sure we start taking
Yeah,
pieces of that.
I don't think we need to worry about having, be sitting on a lot of money.
No, we just need to make
Yeah.
sure that we're
Yeah.
continuing to tackle the list and then not continue to grow.
I think whenever we get ready to start Adams, that's gonna eat up a lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever we figure out what we wanna do with that,
Right.
and then even moving stuff around over here at some point after that.
Yeah,
I think
we
we're
have-
just gonna have to kinda do it as we can.
We haven't even talked about what it's gonna cost to redo this floor.
So,
Right. And I think the number in there for Adams was just kind of a guess. I don't know that we have, like I said, I think we need to start talking about who we think we're moving and get someone to do some designs and things like that and make the steps forward to get to what that number is, cause right now the 1.5 is just literally a guess.
yeah, that's what I think, get a meeting together and we'll have to make that decision, and then, I agree with you on the HVAC, that was a good point, not to do anything with this until we really know what we're gonna do, cause then your zones are gonna change every which way, so.
The money amount of all these projects might need to be rethought about the sales tax. 15.85, half a cent versus a whole cent versus something different that you may want to think about going forward.
Nah,
Instead
we'll
of
just
a
spend
bond.
within our means.
Okay.
The old, okay.
Okay,
Fine,
there's
not talking
way more
anymore.
money here than we can, way more money here.
I guess I should, well, that's a good idea, but no,
Yeah, it's up to you guys, I don't care, just giving you options.
I was just trying to sandwich the compliment in there.
Yeah, too
Okay.
late, Jeff.
All right. So are we going to EMS? or
Yeah, I
what?
think let's skip to EMS. Matt's here. Like I said, we briefly touched on his the last time with kind of talking about the 3 to 5 year ideas, and he's narrowed that list down. I don't know if you have additional questions for him. There is one item that may be on the radar that we're not exactly sure if we are going to purchase next year or not, and that's vehicle repeaters with the replacement of the radios.
The idea behind that is if we, with these new radios, we want to test to see if the repeaters are necessary or not before we actually purchase those. So we can either budget for them or just have an understanding that we may need to come back and ask for those. It's about $36,000 to put them on in all the vehicles. That way they can hit the towers. Basically, the way it works is if we can't get out, we turn the radio to a new channel, it hits the vehicle and then shoots it to the tower. I'm hoping we won't need those, but talking with a couple of the other departments in the area, they think we're going to need them. So I'd like to at least have that on the radar, not necessarily right now budgeted. We didn't put that on there, but that's something we may need to come back and ask for. Outside of that, I don't see of any other things that's not listed.
So I think that would be coming out of reserves either way, whether you budget it for 2020 upfront or you decide during the year that that's something that we need to purchase. So you guys kind of tell me if you want the placeholder in the budget or if you just want to kind of wait and see when we get there and decide then if we can spend it out of reserves.
I'd put it in the budget. If you don't need it, you don't spend it. But it's just me.
I'm fine either way. I mean, it's gonna be in reserves. If we don't need it, we don't spend it from there, or else if you want to put it in the budget, you don't have to get it from reserve. This capital request is like 20 times lighter than last year, so I like it. But is there anything else that necessarily needs to be done for the certification that we don't have on this? I mean, that's what we've been working towards.
I mean, so a couple of things, some of the ambulances that we have, presently they don't lock. All the compartment doors don't lock, but I think through our attrition rate of replacing them, that'll be something. So I wouldn't want to have that replaced if we're going to replace those vehicles. Right now, I would wait and hold off of that.
Okay.
The biggest thing that, from that standpoint, is being in the jail is probably the biggest detriment from that, just from having to go through the locks, get out, get to the truck. It does eat up our response time. So, so for accreditation purposes, that is an issue that we'll have to tackle somehow to get within those. But that's probably our biggest issue, being in that facility.
I don't think I have any more questions. Your witness.
No, yeah, I've seen, in fact, I saw the one ambulance down there at the old Hawker filling station across from Simonson, which normally I think would probably be the one that would be in the jail, and I'm sure that's just for a quicker response, but I'm still gonna work on getting you a couple stations, so. The city is talking to this one group on some HUD grants, and, so.
So if I can take a few minutes to kind of set the record straight on a few things, I'd appreciate that, since this was brought up at the last budget meeting, if you guys are okay. So I know there's a lot of conversations or talks about how EMS is quote-unquote treated differently or anything like that, and I just want to point out some of those differences. My employees don't work 40 hours a week. In fact, an average employee that works 40 hours works 2,080 hours in a year. My employees work 832 hours more than those employees. When you take that out, that takes 20 weeks more to pay for them to work. Yet they make a less hourly rate than those employees that are working 40 hours. When they do that, they take vacation or sick time. They lose money every time they do that because they don't get the overtime that's built into their schedule. So when a 40-hour employee in any other department takes vacation, or myself included, we don't lose money. My employees do. So when people say we have to be equal, no, we need to be fair. Equal is the treatment of every person regardless of the circumstances surrounding them. Fair is taking the totality of the circumstances and applying them fairly. So I just want to point those things out, that the training that we require, the continuous training that they require to ensure that we maintain an appropriate response level is met. If you notice on the first one for capital improvements, there wasn't a single thing on that list that listed EMS, because we have our own fund that we use to use for capital purchases. My department gets nothing from general revenue. It is all based on the emergency services sales tax and what we recover through our reimbursement from insurance companies. We have mandatory overtime. When an employee on a 40-hour schedule takes off, they're just off. The work waits and they come back and do it. I have to put somebody in a seat, so I have to mandate my employees at times. Again, my department is not equal with other departments because they have unique requirements. We're a public safety organization. Somebody breaks their arm, they might be out if they're a 40-hour employee for a week or so. My employee's out until they recover. Until that cast comes off, they are out. There is no pay. If they get injured off duty, they might be out 3 months, 4 months recovering. Those employees can come back here in an office and work. The last meeting, the statement of $3.1 million in capital, I sent everyone a list saying these were the requirements as I was asked to project out. At no point was there a 3.1 million request for capital for this year. Those are the things that we saw, including 2 stations that we would need to build over that time frame. We've basically cut down to 1/13 of the requested budget of this current year for next year. That's a substantial savings. But as I've explained to each of you before and to others, over 10 years, that capital was not reinvested, or the money wasn't spent to get some of those things that were required over that time frame. You're gonna have to pay the piper at some point. Unfortunately, it was this year because we were deficient in many areas. We've since done that. We're creating replacement cycles so we don't have those big expenditures. All radios were purchased this year. There is no radio requirements next year. We had projected about $260,000 for radios. We were able to get them for $162,000 for all the radios to get replaced. So that's not in there. So I just wanted to make sure that we understand that when we are talking about these other departments, or others are talking about our department, we are unique because we have different requirements. I have to make sure I keep people staffed and we can run those calls. We work many, many more hours than the average 40-hour employee, yet we pay them per hour less. So if we want to be equal, then we need to equally pay my employees to the same as a 40-hour, which would not be feasible with our budget in this county. So we do a lot of work behind the scenes individually. I call each one of you individually to explain and to lobby for the needs of my department, because the department has needs. And I just wanted to make sure that we're all on the same page throughout the entire county, that there's a lot of background work that gets done individually with each commissioner to ensure that we have the ability to respond to an emergency and to treat the people of this county in an appropriate and professional manner. Healthcare is the most expensive industry in the United States. We are not just a public safety entity, we are also a healthcare entity. When I buy something, it's generally more expensive than other types of things because it's part of the healthcare industry. So I just wanted to clarify some things and to explain why we are different.
Then we are playing catch-up too, because, you know, when I came in, you know, really, other than buying new ambulance, we weren't buying a lot of equipment and stuff, so we are playing catch-up. You're bringing us into the 21st century, so.
I know a lot of it was directed at the commissioners though, even though it did kind of seem like it was directed at EMS, that we were a rubber stamp, but we have, and it's more than just EMS, phone calls that we get individually with people bringing us information. They do their homework, they meet with us, they call us, they email us and bring us information. Otherwise, we could sit in these meetings and try to solve one thing. It would take 2 hours for each agenda item. So, I don't know. I appreciate the information. We make a joke about you have a 6-minute phone call, but.
Never happened.
Because, no, because we were getting it. It was an overload because we had some either deficiencies or maybe gaps in service. And so you're bringing all this information to us, and these are not arbitrary or capricious decisions that we're making. I mean, this stuff is stuff that was brought to us and just an overload of information, so.
And many of those things have legal implications that we can't talk in open public about based on the sunshine laws. And some of them have IT issues that relate to federal laws that we can't talk about in open session. And so those conversations are being had within the sunshine law.
All right, is that all the EMS capital stuff?
Do you have any questions about the capital that's up there?
I'm still gonna look at some of this other HUD money, like on your additions and things. If this gets going, I wanna get as much money for you as I can.
Under the HUD, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right. No questions. Thank you, gentlemen.
No.
Thank you.
Good.
Did you guys have any questions about information systems list?
So was that all he needed for his capital then? You said he had 225, and then Debbie, you said it was 167 total.
So that's kind of the list of things he knows about. Again, there are things that come up during the year that we sometimes don't know about.
Especially a lot with CenturyLink and the different, you know, until we can get a different phone system or so.
Right.
A lot of those things were not budgeted this year, so I hesitate to cut that back anymore, just because. And,
One, it's not getting any cheaper either.
and Brian works for you guys, so he's gonna come to you and tell you what he needs before he gets anything besides what's on this list.
Yeah, Brian's good. Yeah, MVE has the same phone.
These phones,
Yeah.
yeah, they were pretty popular when we got those. I think it's not the phones, so it's gonna be the
Yeah, I know.
infrastructure
I know,
behind that.
I know.
So what was the Meraki Access Points EMS assessor? I mean, what is, do we have any idea there?
I don't know, that would be a Brian question, I was hoping he would be here.
Yeah, and then the other stuff for EMD, I mean, is that not something that can come out of there? I mean, obviously, we'll fund that, but, I mean, is that not something that we can ask for reimbursement for?
I'm not sure on that either. I know in the last 2 years, I don't think Bill's been getting the amount of money to replace some of that computer equipment that's on the truck itself. So I think that's why Brian included it. I know we had some discussions last year as well.
So that's all on the MEOC, so, I mean, you would think there would be some grant funding or whatever out there to help update that.
He gets some of the other equipment. I think they're lagging behind in some of the computer equipment itself. I know that area raise and the equipment on the truck that they use while they're out, yes, but I don't think as much the actual computer servers and things that are on the truck.
That's a regional asset though, right?
Yes.
I mean, so we shouldn't be picking up the tab on that. The region should be.
So that may be a discussion that needs, I
Mhm.
think this was just Brian putting a placeholder out there because he knew it needed to be replaced.
Right,
I think there needs to be more discussion about how that's paid for.
right, I agree. Other than that, I don't have any questions on IT or IS. TIS, whatever.
So I will tell you that the sheriff's list is kind of still a work in progress. There are a few items that, I know are currently out to bid that are on his list for next year that could be purchased this year. One being that, body scanner and the interview rooms. I know that both of those are out to bid right now. We are still in discussions as well about his operating budget, so there's some items in here for outfitting patrol deputies and mobile radios that may not be included. So his list is changing. I just kind of wanted to give you the list and see if you had any questions prior to that I need to try to get answered for you.
I mean, I guess, just in general, I'd like a better description of what he's asking for here, so. So computers, MDTs, he's just got $35,000 in there. I don't really know what that is, but that's, I'd say that's one heck of a,
So that's one we'll have to ask Brian on as well. They are paying for all of their replacements, and I know they did a large portion of them this year. I think this is the other, they were trying to do like a replacement plan for their computers as well. So we'll have to get an exact list of what those are.
and then if he's purchasing one taser for $15,000, I mean, that seems kind of expensive.
No, that is not one taser, that is
Well,
tasers. They have,
Well, quantity one, so,
okay, I'll get those quantities updated.
and then, I mean, is obviously outfit 4 new patrol deputies. I mean, I don't know what, is that a car, is that just equipment, is that?
I think, mostly equipment, uniforms, equipment that they carry on themselves.
And is that based on asking for 4 new deputies?
Mm-hmm,
So,
yeah.
Jail van replacement, I mean, how many miles is on the current van?
It's not, it's as of last year, I haven't asked for this year yet.
Okay.
It's
Is it-
pretty old.
Sometimes old is better.
Brian?
Brian,
Brian,
Thought you
Walked
got
past
away.
twice just to see if somebody would stop me.
never did have it. I wonder if
You're just hanging
Greg
outside
could
the
have
corner.
it.
You're in the hot chair.
Well, if it doesn't have that many miles on it, keep driving it.
I know we've been in the
There's no
process
point in
of
replacing it.
replacing computers over at the
Heck,
sheriff's
Jeff's got
department,
stuff,
and aren't we
I've got stuff that's got 200,000 miles on it.
replacing
Drive
the
that thing.
20,000 miles on Whitey.
Yeah.
This year,
I think we've done some over the past 3 years.
3 years,
Yeah.
so,
MDTs, is that what you're talking about?
MDTs and desktops and
So-
servers
so we're continuing that replacement plan. I'll get you exact numbers though. Oh, look.
Wow, he was watching.
Hey, John, we're gonna talk about your budget, what's coming up?
Hey, it's on the agenda.
Hey, get the hurt feelings report out. I probably got one in my folder, John, they hand them to me all the time at work. So what about the van, do you know where you're at on that, on mileage? We were asking about that.
I don't know.
Okay, we're not making decisions today, we're just
Yeah, I
kinda
know.
kicking stuff
Well,
around,
if-
so.
so if you'd have said something, I could have brought all my information up here with me, so I could give you.
I didn't know how far down deep in the weeds we were gonna get today, so.
And mine was just to try to get what information they wanted.
One of them's approaching 200,000.
Yeah, that's just the only questions I had was just on, just more description.
Okay. Any other capital stuff we wanna talk about? Anything you didn't see on the list that you want included in the budget?
You see high performance.
No. Anything else?
Raise for our employees.
We're working on it.
Okay.
You love doing that, don't you?
One thing
It's like my daughter.
under unfinished business is I know we did talk about, dependent health insurance. So I am trying to get to the point where I'm wrapping my budget up. That is one question that's out there that is kind of looming that I do not have in the budget at the moment. If you guys have any thoughts on whether or not you're going to change your mind, that would be one that I would like to know about as soon as possible. Because right now I do not have the cost of that in the budget at all.
I'm gonna look at that at the same time as we look at the raises, probably, see where we're at.
I think you're gonna be too late at that point, so you need to decide on health insurance next week, so that we can have open enrollment.
Got open enrollment coming and they have to know in order to decide what they're going to take. And that's not something that can wait.
I would like to see you bump it up to at least a 40%. I know 2 people who just got a job with the state, and they said dependent, I don't have dependent children anymore, but they said they covered 100%, but they have to pay for spouses. I don't know what department that was in, or if it
I
mattered.
don't think so.
I'd like to see it.
I mean, they're up to 80%, 80 to 90%, the state is. They are. But most state workers have to pay a little bit too for their own insurance. So, do we subsidize as much as the state or the city does? Absolutely not, we do not, never have. But we've kept the employee whole to where the employee hasn't had to pay. Whether they want the direction of paying more on a dependent, it's definitely
We're at, what, 20% on family?
27, it's all over the, every
Depending
policy.
on how many you have.
No, kids, we don't do it by kid, but, it's between 17 and 21%.
Depending
The
on which kind of
HMO,
policy you
PPO,
take.
yeah, the high deductible,
I think we would maybe have to follow the lead of the state and have each employee pay a little bit on theirs if we're gonna do the families. But then you've got single people or people that just have one on there, is that fair to them to pay $125 a month for their health insurance?
I think we've always prided on
Yeah.
prided ourselves with paying the total cost of the employee's insurance.
Yeah.
So I would not like to see that change.
No,
If you
Debbie
want
is-
to add additional amounts for dependents, I think you need to decide that, but I don't think you should be changing the fact that we cover 100% of the employee's cost. Just my personal opinion.
Oh, I agree with that 100%.
But I don't
Take care of the
think,
employees.
Yeah.
And then the other dependents or family is gonna be over and above.
What was the cost if you bumped up the dependent coverage to 40% instead of the 20-ish?
at 50%, going up 30% would be about 27,000 per fund, based on current enrollment. I envision more people will jump on, and then that would increase.
So we don't have the crystal ball to determine how many people would come over to county insurance if you made that change.
How many funds are there?
There's 5 that have payroll, but that's probably the big 3
Yeah.
with the most employees, because there's 2 that don't have as many.
So it'll be
So literally,
90 to 100 and some $1,000
Yeah.
more a year.
right,
Based on current enrollment.
And I would think we would see, like the city has, what'd they say, roughly 900 employees on their health care.
People.
Our people, yeah, and, so I think, because of the way they pay, yeah, they've probably got roughly the same number of employees.
Are they self-insured? Partially self-insured? So.
Yeah, I think so, because we were talking with them about a nurse practitioner.
I don't know, I'm just curious if we're getting the best deal doing the partially self-insured, because it seems like we're paying an awful lot.
Oh, I believe we're doing the
Dependents
right
is
thing.
$800, right?
Right. We're not out of line compared to what's being charged by, compared to the state and the city and anybody else around, not the dollar amount. But when you look at how much they subsidize, that's where it looks like they're not paying as much. They are still paying the same cost, they are just subsidizing for kids, spouse, and family. We subsidize around 20, they subsidize around 80 to 90 with the state. So if you want to try it out and subsidize, up to 50, up to 40, and then see how many actually jump on, see what that does to our self-insurance fund, that is totally up to you guys. I would rather you start there, not charging the employee for theirs, just upping the ante on dependents.
and I would say we take that in smaller pieces, so, maybe you wanna go up to the 50% and kind of see what happens. And if you want to eventually move towards more than that, yes, but I would prefer you take it in smaller pieces so we can kind of see what it does to that fund before we jump from 20 to 80.
Yes, because taking it back away will not be popular.
No.
There's a lot of people that don't take our insurance, and so, it's hard to say, well, what's fair? I mean, is it a benefit that you offer? Is it an attraction piece that try to get employees here? I mean, that's what it is. I mean, whether people take it or they use your retirement, they try to use the match of the retirement, that's totally up to them. I mean, it's a benefit that we offer. And so I think we ought to try to go to the 50% of dependent coverage, and just so that we can try to attract people to come work for us, and retain some of the people that we got.
Approximately, what would that add?
50% would add about the 100,000 countywide, but, about 27,000 per big funds,
Per fund.
No.
based
How
on
many-
current
How
enrollment.
many people
Right.
are gonna
Yes.
throw their family on the plan, and if
That's
you
right.
Right.
match it up, so it could be twice as much.
True.
one that's kind of leaning towards a yes. I would like to put it in the budget if I have more than one of you thinking that you're possibly gonna do it, cause that's an amount I wanna try to find.
I'm just not leaning towards the 50%. I do baby steps possibly, little by little. I don't know how much it's gonna make a difference, making somebody wanna come work for us, but I personally never went to an employer looking for the best dependent care, so.
Moms do.
But
Yeah. Moms do a lot, yep.
Yeah, if the wages is but your insurance is gonna go up, it's not gonna be a pay cut.
I mean,
Yeah.
it is very few that take the family coverage because in today's world, the spouse works, the husband works, and then all they're looking for is the kids.
when you only hear about single moms, you don't hear about us single dads, so, I don't.
Yeah, we all feel sorry for you.
How many times have you been single? Hey, some people can be happy, some people can be single. Or married. I don't know.
So if you give a percent, we'll work from there. I would say 50% if you're, I mean, 30% or 40%, I don't know if that would make that much difference.
I just think it's more in your paycheck. I mean, that benefit for somebody, for a family or, well, I get that, Larry. What about people that don't take it at all? That opt out of the health insurance? I mean, so they're giving that up too. And so I get that, but I mean, I can't pay you $500 or $600 a month because you opt out of health insurance. I mean, I can't pay you enough to offset the cost of what the health insurance benefit will be for you. I mean, that could be $400 per month for one employee. What they would put in their check versus having to spend. I mean, that's almost $5,000.
So if I can find insurance cheaper somewhere else, you can't put it in my check and just keep it off yours?
I don't think you
Nope.
want to go that avenue.
Well, I'm not saying I
No.
do, but that's essentially what you really need to do if you're gonna up all this dependent care. and
I'm one of the
stuff, too,
ones
so.
that's got the big fund that's gonna end up eating $30,000 or $40,000 on this, but I'm gonna tell you, I don't know how some of my staffs that come to work at $28,000 or $29,000 a year, they don't get our insurance because they can't afford it. So you bring it down to 50%, I think that's gonna be a big attraction, and I think it's gonna keep people. So I'm one of the guys that's gonna have to pay the extra money, and I'm willing to pay that money, because I agree with you two.
But what about all the people that you can hire now? And now you have all these positions filled, so now you have more people that can take their time off, can go home and be with their families instead of working the overtime, the mandatory overtime, that can take their vacations. I mean, you got a lot of people that are, because we have open positions, that can't take time off. I mean, so, yeah, they're making more money, but even if I make more money working time and a half and I gotta pay $500 a month to, have my spouse and my kid on the health insurance plan, I mean, I gotta work a lot of hours to pay that $500.
For me, I'm going after the more mature individuals.
Right.
And those guys are looking at the benefits, they are looking at medical, and if you increase it to 50%, that is one thing that they will jump and come to me, which, I already told you, that's what I'm trying to do, is steal people, so they will do that on top of.
I hope you're right.
And I think that's another avenue we can go to attract, we've already raised the price, now we need to do some other things to entice more people to stay here and also, to come here. So like I said, that and $2, you can get a cup of coffee, but that's my suggestion.
Yeah, I'm not saying any of them are
I get the big
wrong.
one,
There's
that's
different ways to look at
I
it all
understand
across
how
the
you, I
board, so.
understand what you're saying too, but.
And sometimes I just
If
like
you-
to argue, believe it or not.
If you make the decision today, then everybody that's currently taking another insurance has the opportunity to jump on board if they choose to do so.
Yeah, this doesn't work out to where we can do sign up after budget.
Right, no, I think if it was up to Debbie, sign up would be tomorrow, so they can get started, so.
Okay.
And I know I'm competing with the state as far as open enrollment, some spouses have a state now. Even at 50%, they're not gonna jump off the state and come to us. But there are some other employers that have open enrollment in October. So that's why when I get the information to you, as soon as I get it from Wall Street, I'm gonna give it to you. But I really do need a decision next week.
I lost 2 to the state last month.
For maybe the insurance, or they had, a lot of them have years of service there before, they wanna go back and build at that after
Yeah.
they retire from.
Yeah,
it.
there's, yeah.
And do most of those places have some kind of written policy that if your spouse has insurance offered through their employer, you can't
I
add
will
your
be.
spouse to ours?
Yes, I will be bringing that form for you guys to approve that we do the same thing,
Mhm.
yes. If you ante up on the dependents, if you move that.
So I'm for increasing to 50%.
I will go with it too, yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna work on trying to get that number into the budget before I present it to you.
And keep in mind that's based on current, so we'll
Yeah.
have to change it
Yeah, I
again
know,
once we
yeah.
know.
Bless you,
Plus,
bless you.
And that's an ever-moving target.
Yes.
People come, people leave, so it's not an exact science. So when we give you budget transfers at the end of the year, that's why.
I'm not saying it's bad to try, I prefer to do a raise across the board and more money than to do that change, but maybe there'll be some kind of, try to be positive about it, but I'm being a little more pessimistic about it.
Right.
I don't know if we're gonna necessarily get or retain any more people, but we'll see, so.
Yeah, you don't know, but I mean, when you give a 2 or 3 or 5% raise, I mean, it still don't equate to the $4,000 or $5,000 you can be out of pocket for health insurance benefits, so, anyway. Anyway, we gotta try something and see
Yeah.
if it works, and
You
if
can't
not,
just try it though, cause you're not gonna be able to go backwards.
sure you can,
You can. It's difficult, but you could. Yes.
yeah.
You can.
Oh, yes. I mean, you could, that 4% that you signed this morning, go
Mhm.
back to passing that back to the employee.
Well, I mean,
Want to, but-
that insurance plan can change yearly. I mean,
Yes.
obviously, we want to keep our employees whole, but I mean, if we have a ton of people that jump on it and it costs us a fortune, we may have to cut it back to 40% or whatever that may be. And so that's why we get paid, to make tough decisions that are financially responsible for the county.
And the city may have to cut back at some point.
Yeah.
On
Yeah.
their benefit structure,
Mhm.
because, yes, they're very.
I mean, the
liberal on
state's
that.
done it, I mean, it's probably been a while, but anyway.
Okay, well, as soon as I
Good.
get that information on that, I'll send it to you.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't have anything else. You guys have anything else?
Nothing
Oh,
else.
one other thing we did talk about last time, do you wanna schedule something to talk about math steps? I know we kind of talked about the implementation of that changing.
Anniversary dates versus.
Can we just do that during budget, or do we need to do that before?
You can,
You just want to know whether to include it in your portion of
right, so
EMS
if
budget,
you're
or-
thinking about changing implementation of it to anniversary date, it's going to be higher this year than in the following years, because there are some employees, not all, that would get a step in January and then one during the year. So instead of budgeting one step per employee, there are some that would have to be budgeted, one in January and one later in the year.
He wouldn't get to one in January.
No, that's what I thought Matt had said.
It would just be one.
Yeah,
It'd actually
it's-
save us money, cause they wouldn't get it until their anniversary date,
So-
which would be August.
So
or
no,
whatever date
if
filed.
you were here prior to 19, and you didn't get a raise in 19, you would jump a step in January to where you're supposed to be, and then on your anniversary date.
Let's
you
get
would-
Matt here when we talk about
Yeah,
this,
I-
'cause that's not the way I
That's
understood it.
not, that's not me either.
So,
Okay, so let's have another meeting and we'll talk
Yeah.
about it.
Can we do that sometime this week?
I've got Friday open.
I cannot do Friday, and I cannot do 1 o'clock on Thursday.
do you realize it's deer season?
I'm sorry.
No, you're not.
No.
You guys got time yet today?
I've got an
I
appointment
got
at
at
3.
3, I gotta be over at the Capitol.
But if you want to call them up, they'll probably be back here pretty shortly if we wanna do this and figure it out, but.
I mean, I can budget it one and we can talk about it more during the budget process, but.
I budgeted at one, that's the way I understood it, but it's not, they weren't getting one and one.
Yeah, that's my understanding also.
My understanding was only if you were here prior to 19. You were getting one in January and one during the year. Going forward, it would be one on your anniversary date, but this year to catch up because we were supposed to be January 1st.
I'd say budget one in there and then we'll talk about it at budget. Cause I mean, I agree with you that you don't get one
No.
on January one and
No.
one on your
No.
anniversary. So. I'll keep on the phone with them.
I should have brought it up earlier when he was here. I kind of forgot. I got a lot on my plate at the moment, Sam.
I'm interested in 2 raises per person per year.
I think everyone, yeah. I will say in any other year, after this one, if there is 2, it wouldn't be any different than budgeting 1 per person. He's just choosing not to give it to them in January. He would choose to give it to them on their anniversary.
Mhm.
That's the way I understand.
Yeah,
it.
that's right.
So going forward, that's my understanding, is that you would budget 1, and he would just choose not to give it to them until they reach their anniversary date,
Correct.
which any other department could.
15 months.
We can keep busy for 15 minutes.
Oh, yeah. More coffee.
So that's my understanding.
Need some, something in your coffee?
I got it.
It's almost noon.
I got it.
I'm doing good. We get all this figured out. We'll have budget under wraps and.
I'll send you an
That's
email.
what you think.
Well, I was talking to Gasper.
So we just
Huh?
wanna take a little break till he gets back up here?
That's fine.
Or do you have anything else you wanna, cause I wouldn't mind getting rid of a cup of coffee and getting a little more, so. I'll be right back
Just
then.
keep it going. This is gonna stay on.
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna talk to him.
He-
Oh.
Well, that's cold. Done with Fred's.
I need to, Sam, to approve that. You got a scale somewhere, Greg? I didn't think that monument base was that big.
Eighth inch equals up to that.
It's a huge base. Not reading that right. 2 inches and 6 inches. Quarter inch.
So where do those go? Is that in the corner?
This is back in the yard, so the existing base sits right about here right now. And,
So this is the curve of the, like Monroe versus I, so it's still gonna be in that
Mhm.
corner, just pushed back.
right, and the pavement will go to here, and then the flagpole will be set out a little bit.
So this is the flagpole?
No,
This is the flagpole.
That, what is this?
that's existing monument that's there right now.
Got it.
No, it's
No, this will be just pavers, and then they'll have this.
Oh, so it'll
stone.
just be like a, yeah,
Mhm.
like
It'll be
the
a-
inlays right now.
Right, it'll be larger. There'll be a couple of larger ones in there, there'll be one here, and one over
Yeah.
here by the
So then-
entrance over here.
So then will there still be steps to both doors like there was
You're good with that engraved piece, right?
Oh,
Yeah, I thought it was, kept it simple and didn't get too much on there.
Basically takes all the concrete out from here,
all right, buddy.
steps
Hey, I
going
appreciate it.
here, steps going in here, and then handrail comes
All right, good
all the
man.
way across here, to
Bye.
people from walking across the
So
grass.
there won't be a sidewalk that way or anything anymore?
Nope.
That's good though.
Yeah.
And then is there still, wasn't there like sidewalk here?
Yeah, that's all coming out.
It's all coming out.
But I mean, really, once you get all this paving, then there won't be much yard here.
And then there's no trees, tree boxes
Yep.
here, they're all up in
Yep.
here.
You got a tree here, three trees here, and three trees here, and a tree there. And they're fairly small trees.
I think if you put a 3-foot monument up there, somebody's either gonna steal it or break it.
Yeah, it's not very big, I mean.
How tall is the one that's out there right now?
It's 8 foot. Well, it's 8 foot to the, and then the eagle's above that.
Cause I mean, I'm kinda with Jeff, I think if they're gonna be side by side, they need to be kind of comparable in
Height
size,
anyway,
yeah.
Well, of course, if you walk up to it, you gotta squat down here to read it, I mean, it's kinda stupid. What's that say? So, anyway, as long as it doesn't get crazy expensive.
Do we have an estimate of cost on those monuments? I mean, he said the larger one was 18.
18,000. That's what the larger one, yeah, all the engraving, so. So, I mean, I'm sure that we can stay under that. So,
That's something I was gonna call you about.
This is the stone that goes in this corner here.
Have you gotten your file and
That's the
everything?
engraving of it, trying to keep it simple.
Yeah,
Are you good with that?
yeah, I like that.
That scares me.
I like that. Yep.
What?
That scares me.
Scares me
I like that.
Oh, you're good. Yeah, here's the, so here's the plaques. This is the
Yeah.
flagpole base. So those are the plaques that come off that, like the existing, those are on the existing.
Yeah,
county
yeah,
line,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
One
Well, there's
of
one little one on the steel base that I think when they originally dedicated it, that was the GAR. And then there's, what, 2 of them in front of that?
Yeah, you know, it's right there.
Yeah, and then the new one, the SAR, or the Sons of Union Veterans would probably wanna do another one saying they gave the flag. Yeah, which we could, yeah, it's,
Cause it doesn't look, there's not gonna be a whole lot of confusion around it.
and then, you know, the bicentennial committee, if they wanna do something, they could just do that on the monument.
Well,
If it's-
this is just on 2
Yeah,
sides.
that's- yeah.
So you got 3 sides here, with pavement all around this.
Yeah, yeah.
So you could put something.
Yeah, if need,
wherever
yeah,
you want it.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yep. Yep, yep. Yeah, I'm glad we're good with it.
We did.
Oh, I think it's, yeah. Are we gonna do, are we gonna expose the aggregate all the way up on the steps, sidewalks there?
We took one of the nurses and we
Sidewalk,
cleaned it.
Yeah.
That comes into the stairs. That would be regular concrete going up. And that way it doesn't differentiate
think,
They put me on next.
Man, I can sell it.
you got.
Oh, yeah, no, it's already done. We just have to get on there and say it was an emergency practice. No, no, you're
All right,
good.
well, like I said, it's not
Yeah,
a
Larry?
You sick, Larry?
Good.
You sick?
No. Well, I've been looking at that.
I thought they were just talking about going to Nixon. I thought you had put down that, oh, no, you said you're gonna be on your job. Public, your job.
Well, you gotta ask, yeah.
Somebody said, so they couldn't.
Well, what you do is you gotta be last week.
Oh, maybe that's what it was.
You
Maybe
read
that's
this
what
and
it
how much you
was.
save.
Okay.
And it's actually still gonna be
Below
even.
what I had.
Might as well have below what you had, same money. More duties. All righty, I think they're here.
You want that?
No, I'll
You
remember.
good? Okay.
I was blocking my coffee, sorry.
Sorry, I didn't know you had.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, I thought we were done, just capital, and he's like, we're talking about raising.
No, I haven't been down here yet. I'm going out to lunch.
We're never done. Rocket fuel. Rocket fuel. Yeah, that'll,
I could use some caffeine.
okay, where do I sign
Yeah,
this?
wait.
Go to coffee after this. Coffee's not eating.
Hey, Matt, do you know where he signs his Zerker thing?
I'm like, okay, do I do it here
So I think it says right here, like, is the
Right there.
contact, right here?
or? Okay, okay, well, that's what I thought, and I thought, well, I don't wanna,
I'm pretty sure as long as it's
I got
there.
time.
okay. I just wanna make sure.
All right, so we're talking a little bit about your step raises and how that would go into effect. And basically, Kristen was saying some people would get 2 steps throughout the year.
Just in this first year.
So the way we designed it is that if they were hired in 2019, they would not get a step at the first of the year. So they would get a step on their anniversary date. So example, if they were hired in June of 2019, as it currently would stand, they would get a step January 1st. We would actually be paying them for 6 months more, right? They'd be moving up that step 6 months early, so we don't want to do that. Anyone that would have been here in 2018 would then get their step in January, right? Because they didn't theoretically get their step and a step in 18. They got, or 19, they got it early in 18, right? So we forego, or whatever you wanted to say. So the way I look at it is was it October of 18? That was really a market adjustment, because we had people making 36,000 as a paramedic, and we had some EMTs making more than they were. We had some disparities within the scales themselves, or the pay that we were giving. We had people that had been here a long time making less than those that had just recently been hired. So those steps were to not only create a market adjustment to what we needed to attract individuals, then we didn't get a raise at January 1st of 19, which we all agreed to. The idea is anyone hired in 19, so if you were hired in February of 19, you would get a step February 2020. If you were 18, in order to adjust where you would normally be, you would get the January 1st, and then you would get, say, March or December. So if they were hired December of 18, they would then get that final step to make them, I don't know if I use the word whole, but to put them on track for their anniversary steps. Because we do vacation and sick time and all of those things based on the accrual rates, like when they move up an accrual rate based on their anniversary date. The idea would then be is to move everybody to an anniversary date that ultimately saves money in the first part of it, because we're not paying people early, right? So if you're a May or an October of 2020 anniversary, instead of giving you all of your money in at January 1st, it would start, and then from that point forward, everybody would, their raises contingent on funding would come at their anniversary. If there was no money, and every person has been made aware that if you guys don't authorize steps, their step freezes that year And the following year, they would pick back up if you guys don't authorize raises for that department in that year. Does that make sense?
It does. I guess I'd just like to see, you know, is there a way for you to show us EMS employees, blank out their names and show,
So we're working on it.
okay?
It's a complex spreadsheet to get it to pull that and calculate a portion of the year at this rate and a portion of the year at this rate, because we calculate his overtime and his salaries
Right.
separately. So, we're in the process of that, and we're very close to being done to where you can like flip it on and flip it off to calculate
Okay.
one versus the other, but, I don't have it to show to you right now.
So the one that we did, it showed that basically so our overall salary line is decreasing this year versus last year. So even with the raises that we would be putting in, we're still below what we are this year, just through attrition and turnover. What we calculated was the mid-year step to get everybody on track is about $20,000. But if you were to take all of that money and front it at the first of the year, that's not $20,000, then that's much greater, because you're paying people 8 months, 6 months, 2 months, whatever that time frame is, you're fronting all of that money January 1st. So it's actually, in my opinion, a cost-saving move to try to not pay them early on a step and to align them to their anniversary date.
So when you say your overall salary line has gone down, is that based on total number of people, based on so many hours that they're working, and doesn't really take into account
same-
unscheduled overtime and stuff, but?
Well, same total number of people, same total number of hours, yet you've had some people that were at a higher salary that have left and come in
Okay.
at the starting.
Okay,
Right, so instead of somebody that was maybe making 54 or 57,000, there are, because we don't adjust unless there's a very extenuating terms, like we hired an RN, a flight nurse. We hired her, we brought her in a step higher because of what she brings to them. She's already critically care certified as a flight nurse. All of those things that she offered, we brought her in a step higher because of her certification level. But everyone else comes in at that 47,500. And so again, as people have, through attrition moved out, each one, we have savings in that process.
So it should eventually stabilize. You're not gonna see that all the
Right.
time, but right now, just because of the fluctuation in employees, we've seen
Right.
some savings.
so I guess I'd just like to see see what you're
I
working
think if we
on and
pull
see
up
what
that
the
one
overall
chart, I mean,
cost.
my chart at least shows,
She doesn't have it, and I don't have my files down
I
here.
can forward it to you real quick, because I've got that. That was due to you when?
September the 1st.
First, okay. David, go grab my backpack. I know it's on my desktop, on my thing, it's in the back, thank you.
Yep.
I may have it, but I can send it to her as well.
Should have been that Sunday that I sent it. Oh, that's because I'm in the wrong one. Yeah, on my phone, it does only go back to the 1st of October, so, you got it?
Did you see this, Jeff?
Governor's.
It'd be neat if we could
On his autograph.
do our own, yeah.
Is there a spreadsheet?
Probably paid for it.
That'd be kinda neat.
Probably paid for that with tax dollars.
That'd be neat
You're gonna get some, I mean.
for each of us,
we get a certain
for each of
number
us to
them,
have,
people wanna go in on it.
yeah,
Do you want me to turn off these lights so it's easier to see?
kinda neat.
Which way?
Yeah, they're neat. I mean, they're really cool.
Yeah.
So if you go to salaries, right, and then scroll down.
Okay, now what?
So scroll down.
So Brian, that appliance storage
Yes, sir.
upgrade, that was just an FYI thing, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
What's that total
We don't
line
need
there?
anything on that. I can just delete it.
All right, so it might be easier if I just kind of point to it.
Uh,
Why don't you get some cornhole bags and throw them at him too?
From a cannon?
You don't have that in your.
I wasn't gonna be that nice.
This is mid-year stuff. And then, so that's over there. So that's 27. So if you did the 27, or 2.7, scroll over to the left a little bit. Yeah, go over to those boxes down there. All right, so if you look at it without any additional positions, right, we're at 2.7 roughly.
Your office with it.
Huh?
You evidently made it to your office with
Oh,
it.
sorry.
That's okay.
That's some exercise though, right? So it's 2.7, without any additional positions or anything for next year. If we added those positions, because we requested two, but one, her and I talked about that we were gonna be willing to cut in our request. So that actual total would go down a little bit. So that's kinda, this ends up being the bottom line, right? This 22,000 is the additional mid-year step that would make that change. What I don't have though is I didn't put in here what it would be is if we did the step January 1. Obviously that number would increase because we'd be paying people early. Right, so instead of mid-year, right, so this person that, let's say December 2020, I'd be paying them 11 months early than what I normally would, so whatever that salary would break out. So if you scroll up the way I did this, if you scroll up, then
There's a delay,
oh, there's
a delay between them.
Oh, all right. So here's how I kind of did it. We can just take, actually if you go up a little bit, it's probably easier to show.
Start at the beginning.
Like go to a paramedic, it's probably the easiest way to, like the paramedic area. What I do is I broke not dispatch EMT paramedic, made it easier. All right, so scroll down.
She's there, it's just
Okay.
taking a minute.
All right, so in this instance, right, this person,
I'm gonna move again, sorry. Now go.
Nope, still going.
Is it still thinking? It should be where I'm at.
all right, so here, so line 34 and 35 are pretty easy to look at because they're different, right? So this person was hired August of 19, right?
Mhm.
So when you come across, when we did this chart, they were here 1 month when this chart was calculated out. So they would have no beginning step, right? In January 1, 2020, there'd be no step. Their pay would still be $40.75. Mid-year step, right, they go up to this first step in the chart, and they would have 4 months remaining in that because of August, right? And so they would make that step. So if you scroll over a little bit, Debbie, to your right, please. Right, so this is the amount we're paying for the rest of those steps. So you would take that and basically multiply it by, you know, so we would be paying, what is it, $2,000 if we did January 1st, but instead, if they do their step, we're only paying a quarter of that, roughly, which would be that $666. All right, if you go back to this individual who was actually hired in 2018, this individual was, so they would get their first year step because, again, when we calculated it out, they were hired, I believe it was December. So they had November. So they would have 1 month, right? So here's their beginning step at the year because technically they would have gotten their step this coming November. So they would get their step, then their mid-year step, but they only get it for 1 month, right, mid-year, because that's when they were hired in November. So they would get their 1 month of pay for December, and it would cost us $83, right, type thing. So that's kind of the idea behind it is to create everybody, like get everybody on an anniversary cycle, because through attrition, we're always gonna have people
Did he send us that?
coming and going. And my fear is that if we don't go
No, I didn't.
to an anniversary cycle, we're going to be paying more money up front because a new medic 6 months that comes in, right? Medics are hard to keep anyway because of the market. Let's say that they stay year, 2 years. Every time a new one comes in mid-year, we're going to front them an extra 6 months of pay early, when really what we should be doing is trying to get it. Hey, at 1 year, you get your raise. At 2 years, you get your raise. As long as you guys approve those raises at the beginning of the year, then we dole them out at the appropriate time.
So this would be the only year where that
Correct.
January step would be happening.
After
Going
that, right.
forward, if his salary increase was approved for the county employees, he would not give it to the employee until their anniversary date.
Correct. Which then it keeps that money lower than giving it to them all January 1st. It gives it to them at their anniversary, regardless of where that is in the year. So some people may get one in the January timeframe. If they were hired in January of 19, they would get it January of 2020. They wouldn't get the January 1st one. They would get the January 15th or whatever that one was at that point.
First day of the next pay period.
Correct. Correct. It would roll
Not-
to the first pay
Not
period.
during the pay period.
Right, exactly right.
That's on that. So what do you do with people that are there?
So currently, if you're at the step 7, unless the whole scale moves,
Correct.
you're topped out.
You're
and
topped
you're
out.
not getting anything.
Right, so once you're at 7, you're exactly right. There's no adjustment higher. So if everybody, quote unquote, countywide got a 1% cost of living, we have our steps built in, so they do not go further until we relook at our scales. And so when we first did this, we'll try to do a market look every 3 years is the goal, right? There may be some forces where all of a sudden everybody around us raises their pay a ton, and then we're gonna have to go, okay, we need to look at this. This is something we wanna do. But our goal is every 3 years to look at those steps. And they may not change, but we at least look at them and start looking around us to see what's going on. And then, so one of the other things is like our lieutenants and captains, they don't get an hourly change in their rate. They get a monthly stipend, so it has no impact on on overtime costs. It's just a straight stipend. And that twofold for that. A, from an HR standpoint, it's easier to take away a stipend than actually demote someone. So if we needed to adjust who those individuals were for some reason for poor performance, it's easier just to remove a stipend. And it doesn't have an impact in the hourly rate. So we're not paying more than that stipend. That's a fixed cost.
And for those kind of duties that they're doing, it can be a stipend. Not everything can qualify as a stipend.
Right.
So that total amount excluding overtime and stuff was about 22,720.
So that's includes overtime that's built in, so we have scheduled and unscheduled.
Scheduled overtime.
So it includes scheduled overtime, it does not include unscheduled overtime.
And there's quite a bit of that, depending on fully staffed or not.
And how many employees was that?
You mean total in the department?
How many employees that would be eligible for a raise, full-time employees?
Which one, first of the year or step?
That
Or-
you have budgeted?
So,
There's 61 employees, but there's multiple people in his that would not get a step.
Right.
Right.
But if you did it across the board, you'd have 61 pay raises that you'd have to account for.
correct, and that's what those account for, that's correct. So,
Some of those would be, some of them would not be. So if you're at step 7,
Right?
no.
right, you're
And
topped.
currently with other employees, if you haven't been here, how long? We haven't.
But if
been-
you did a COLA raise like we did everywhere else, everybody would get
Yes.
it.
Yes, correct.
Right. Right, but our thought was is that we had already increased our, kind of built that in for a little bit of time when we did that.
Right.
Now, we have seen the market, the surrounding agencies increase theirs a little bit to try to retain their employees, right? Because that's how it works. But we have seen some of the ones that were pretty close to an alignment. They've actually gone, so we're at 47.5 and we've seen them go to 49 already. And the good thing is we have a few benefits from a retirement standpoint that they don't offer, but they do offer cheaper health insurance, or they offer the short-term and long-term disability. So there's a little bit of things in there that we're not competitive in, and there's a couple things we are competitive in. But from a strictly pay standpoint, I think we're where we need to be right now.
So you're at 2.7 million on payroll. Is that basically where you were prior? On that?
No.
Huh? Thought that's the number that I just saw.
2.7 is if we did if all we did was the steps, no positions, no mid-year raises.
So he's doing it, oh, I'm sorry. He's doing it slightly different than we do in the budget, cause he's including that scheduled overtime piece. So his amended budget for 19 was $2,060,517 just in salaries. That did not include scheduled overtime.
And so for us, scheduled overtime, we have to include that
Right.
when we
My
calculate.
projected for the years, yeah, the 2,066,000, but that, again, doesn't include the scheduled overtime. So almost 2.9 with all overtime.
Right, and so, right now, the way the budget's done is we don't separate scheduled and unscheduled in the overtime line. So it's easier for me to calculate where I'm at and where I'm going by just using scheduled and regular hours. So basically, their salary divided by their hours that they're working.
So 24-hour people and 12-hour people work different amounts of time for the year, right?
That's correct, sir.
So 24 hours work 3,000 some odd hours, or?
Just under 3,000, so they work that 8. So they work, I think it's 2,992 is the actual number that they
And then
work.
12-hour shifts work
2796
or
I
something?
think it's 2292 for them, I believe. They end up working 1 week they're short 4 hours, and the next week they're over 8 hours. So it ends up being they average over that time frame 84 hours. So they get basically every pay period they work 4 hours extra. They are paid a higher hourly rate because those positions are harder to fill. And they don't sit in a station, they're out and about, sitting on a corner in the ambulance, things like that. So from that standpoint, it's harder to attract, so that's why we give a higher hourly rate.
So their total salary should be the same with their scheduled overtime for each position. It's just they make a different hourly rate based
Right.
on the number of hours that they work.
Right.
Hence, lower hourly rate, because they know there's scheduled overtime.
Mhm.
So it's all about the annual.
And that's why when we talk to our employees coming in, we talk about this is your annual rate. Obviously, you can make more if you pick up unscheduled, but
Right.
if you work only the shifts you are scheduled to normally work, you'll make X amount. which kind of goes into one of the other things that, you know, kind of aligns with this, is if we're gonna talk about at some point the making at least vacation considered hours worked, so that they're not losing pay, because we did reduce their hourly rate to build in how many extra hours they're working. I think vacation is fair, because that's a benefit that the county offers them, and sick, I'm okay right now having it to where that is not considered hours worked, because that is an incentive to, hey, if you lose your sick time, you're losing money, or you use your vacation time, because we can control vacation, because we require 2 weeks' notice for vacation time. But that I think would be a fair way to go about it, is to have vacation be considered hours worked. That way they're not losing money on that aspect, because you're really kind of hitting them to, you know, if you, hey, we're gonna give you this vacation benefit, and if you use it, we're gonna take money away. Basically is the way they look at it, and I don't disagree with that.
Well, they also get the option of working 2 days a week versus 5.
Yeah, they work 832 hours more than you'll ever work. So that's not a fair, that's not even remotely fair to equate hours worked like that.
Now, the biggest thing about that is if they do take a vacation, they take a cut in pay.
Correct.
They have the option to pick up other hours too.
Which is more than 832 hours a week
Not
from your
necessarily,
family.
if you're gonna take a 1-week vacation, and you take your kids on vacation or something, you don't necessarily have the chance to pick up those hours.
Well,
Yeah,
and first responder, that's where we are too.
yeah. That's what they crew they chose.
So, I mean, just looking at the chart, seeing what Matt has proposed here, I mean, the net on his end, including the scheduled overtime, is about $27,000 is what I saw at the bottom.
22.
Well,
I think.
okay, 22. Well, so if you took the $2 million, $2,066,000 or whatever, and you added a 2% raise to it, it'd be $40-some thousand. So, I mean, overall,
I
that's
think in what we've
that's a
done so
savings.
far, like I said, our spreadsheet is not perfected yet. It came out to total overall increase of like 3.62 or something, total increase in total salary line. But that may include the additional person, I think.
It does. And that additional person was
Oh.
at 61,500, so that's a pretty big chunk put in that.
But actually, I think that person was included on both sides, so I don't think so. I think you were 3.6% increase overall in salaries.
There were 10 people over the 7-year mark.
So some people wouldn't get anything.
Right.
Right.
Now, generally, the people that are generally, not everyone, that are over the 7-year mark are substantially over. Like, there are several people that are thousands of dollars over that top scale part. So really, I wouldn't advocate for them to get more, because based on the range that we have, they're over that range already. And really, the idea behind a step from our standpoint is it creates fairness in the system, because I'm a firm believer that if you don't deserve a raise, you shouldn't be here in the first place. Right? You're doing your job, you're doing it well, and you move along, and so that's why a step is built that way. Whereas if you're not meeting those standards, you're not meeting the goals, because we have strict standards, and if you're not meeting those, that means that that's potentially harming someone or not doing your job, and you're missing things out on the road. So why would we continue to employ someone that we had an issue with like that? So when we get to that point where we've tried to re-educate, then we move them along if we have to. So that's why my belief is quote unquote, the merit part is, the merit is you're still here, and we move you up. If you guys approve raises for the year, we move them up at the step on their anniversary. the other good part about his stuff, just from a overall, not just ours, but it stops disparity between men and women, young and old, any of those things. It's no longer, well, this person got raises that is getting more than I do. This is a very fair and equitable way to make sure everyone is treated as fairly as possible without having to look at something and go, oh, why are we paying men less than women or women less than men or whatever. That takes that argument away.
So really, I'm just looking for if you want to go to anniversary dates, if you want to do that 1 year adjustment to get to anniversary dates. Cause right now, we don't do anniversary dates for any other employees. And it's definitely going to be a little more paperwork on both sides to get to anniversary dates.
Most definitely.
So I like it. I mean, I think it's more fair and it's more equitable. I mean, yeah, it's different, but it's a different type of organization. I mean, that's something that maybe, other people need to look at as well. And, yeah, it may be a little more work. I don't know.
What?
I was seeing where you were at.
I don't have any problem with it either, actually.
Okay.
You got what? You don't like it?
No, I said I don't have any problem with it either.
Well, I was for the anniversary date anyway, but I just want to see
Yeah.
where you were. I wanted to paint you in the corner. I didn't want to make it that easy on you. Debbie will love us for the extra work. Kristen, job security.
Do you have any other questions?
That's a dirt,
Huh? Do you have any
that's a,
questions for us?
that's a bad,
Yeah.
that's a, Debbie, I love you, but Kristen might flatten your tires.
I'm glad we got cameras around here.
Didn't work when
Long
I
as they're
shot out
working.
didn't work when I shot out the window in the courthouse. Didn't catch them.
All right, anything else?
Nope.
No, it's probably about that time before we get hangry.
All right, I move we stand in recess till 4:30.
All in favor?
Aye.
You trying to wake your feet up or the carpet's loose?
No, the pants.
Oh.
Yeah, mornings are better for
Hey,
me.
Chris, I think there's one more invoice that I need to approve.
And I think,
before you
Okay.
leave.
Okay.
I think it's probably better for him in the morning, so I'll see if, next week's even worse than this week, but I might see if we can do it sometime.
Okay.
Yeah.
See you, John.
See you guys later.
Have a good day.
Where's Kristen? I gotta change my.
Hey, Christie, is Jill in her office?
We're still on. We gotta-
Can you ask her to come in
We
here?
gotta have, we gotta be shut off.
Did somebody tell her we were out?
Yes.
Holler at Lynn, tell her we went out of, did we? We voted to
we
go
did.
out?
We did.
Okay. We need to
Yeah,
tell her what time.
I gotta change my budget. We're getting
Holler at Lynn and tell her we're done with the meeting,
Okay.
please.
Yeah,
Excuse me.
did you wear one of these too yesterday?
No.
I was gonna try to make it out there, we were just
No, I
slammed
couldn't.
yesterday.
It's-
Yeah, I got out there late, so.
Did you take any selfies? What? Did y'all do, let Lynn escape?